Chapter 627. The old god transformed into a flying magic treasure, and turned into a stream of light, quickly flying into the depths of the chaotic space. At the same time, Chen Hao, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly felt as if he was in the chaotic space, and the violent chaotic energy directly pressed down on him. Moreover, because the old god's flying speed had soared, it was definitely several times stronger than the energy Chen Hao had to endure when he was still in the chaotic space. Master, if you can't bear it, or if you feel that it's not strong enough, tell me. The chaotic energy you're enduring now is 3 times stronger than when you were still in the chaotic space. In the worst-case scenario, I'll completely remove the protection for you. In that case, the faster the speed, the stronger the chaotic energy you'll have to endure. The old god said. Very good. That's all for now. Chen Hao said a little excitedly, and in his heart he despised the old god. Although he had told the old god not to interfere in his affairs under normal circumstances, so as to avoid becoming overly dependent on him and affecting his own progress, but damn, this guy actually didn't mention anything that would greatly benefit his own cultivation. Fortunately, in order to save time, Chen Hao took the initiative to use his ability. Otherwise, he really didn't know when he would discover this excellent cultivation method. Feeling the violent energy condensed into wind blades and the enormous pressure on his body, Chen Hao gradually calmed his mind and weakened the protection of his body by his Zhen Yuan. There was no doubt that the impact of the chaotic energy was one of the best ways for Chen Hao to temper his body. Moreover, Chen Hao didn't just have to temper his body. He also had to maintain an ethereal state of mind under this pain, and comprehend the chaotic heavenly way in the chaotic space. Such a cultivation method was definitely an unprecedented challenge for Chen Hao. Splash! In the old god's flying machine, Chen Hao lay naked in the spiritual spring, enjoying the pleasure of the pure energy of the spiritual spring entering his body. The color of his skin changed from crystal clear jade to bronze, and his casual movements were full of the beauty of strength. If one observed carefully, one would find that his body would automatically shine with a faint crystal light at regular intervals. After 2 months, my physical strength has finally broken through the limit. Now even Guanu's physical strength in his peak state is inferior to mine. It should be about the same as Long Ting. It's a pity that I can't improve it anymore. Chen Hao exclaimed in his heart as he felt an unprecedented sense of comfort in his body. Over the past 2 months, as Chen Hao ventured deeper into the chaotic space, the energy storms became stronger and stronger. At this moment, the energy storms released by Old God were 10 times stronger than before. Moreover, Chen Hao could completely rely on his physical strength to withstand them without any injuries. In other words, his physical body had evolved to the point where it could withstand 10 times the terrifying chaotic energy, as if it was in a normal space. However, it was a pity that Chen Hao couldn't further improve his physical strength. Even if his physical body was severely injured and recovered, it would still be in its current state, and there wouldn't be any improvement. This was because not only had his physical body reached its limit, but his understanding of the mystery of the law of heaven had also reached its limit. This meant that even if Chen Hao's physical body was destroyed, there wouldn't be any improvement, let alone evolution. Of course, this limit was restricted by the limit of Chen Hao's cultivation stage. Once Chen Hao stepped into the Earth celestial stage, he would naturally break through this limit and enter a new level. When the human celestial stage is stabilized, it will be time for me to trigger the divine punishment. Now I can only have a good rest. His physical body and the law of heaven had reached their limits, and Chen Hao couldn't enter the second world to practice and understand the mystery of the use of combat skills, so he really had nothing to do. This made him immerse himself in the memories of the past without any desires, and with a mind as calm as water. In his previous life and this life, the things that had left waves in the depths of his heart flashed in his mind according to the order of time. One person, one thing, happy, unhappy, painful, happy, suffocated, refreshed. Love, hate, love, joy, joy, separation, and reunion. It made Chen Hao's mood return to the past, to that moment. But now the feeling was completely different. Many times, his gaze would become the gaze of a bystander, watching everything from the perspective of God. This was a natural change after his state of mind, experience, and vision were different. Gradually, even Chen Hao himself didn't realize that because he was born with a photographic memory and didn't forget any details, some of the memories began to dissipate with his recollections. In other words, they began to be forgotten and clear from his mind, including some people who had left a deep impression on him, but were destined to become passers-by, and would never have any interaction with him. They began to disappear from his mind. However, some unforgettable and important matters became clearer and clearer. Similarly, Chen Hao's state of mind became clearer and clearer. Chen Hao didn't know that this was a kind of mental transformation, which was also the merciless great path, that he thought was completely unreliable. In fact, this kind of merciless could also prove the importance of tension and relaxation. This was because Chen Hao's rare true relaxation naturally allowed him to enter the process of cleaning up redundant memories. The existence of these memories not only had no effect on Chen Hao's cultivation and advancement, but also became a hindrance in his state of mind. This situation was like a computer that hadn't cleaned up junk files for a long time. Some people only remembered to clean up when the computer was dead slow and seriously affected the operation. Some people had the habit of cleaning up regularly to ensure that the computer ran at the fastest speed. Chen Hao was the kind of person who didn't have the habit of cleaning up regularly and had a great impact on the operation speed. The reason why he didn't notice it was because his hardware had been getting stronger, and the overall operating speed was still increasing. At this time, he suddenly unconsciously noticed the existence of the redundant garbage files. It was only a matter of time before he realized it, but under the premise that he didn't notice it, he did what he should do in the future in advance. Similarly, Chen Hao didn't realize that his essence, energy, and spirit, in this state, became more and more full, his state of mind became more and more pure and crystal, and the speed of the operation of his mind was also increasing little by little. In this state, Chen Hao fell into a deep sleep. Master. Master. Master? Yes, Master. Master, we're almost there. Wake up. Almost there. Almost there what? Let me sleep a little longer. Cough cough. Master, we're almost at vast universe star. I have to put it away. The old god naturally sensed that Chen Hao had fallen into a deep sleep, and also sensed the subtle changes in Chen Hao's aura. He didn't want to disturb Chen Hao and had already slowed down half a month ago. It was only when he could no longer sense the changes in Chen Hao's aura that he dared to wake Chen Hao up. But after calling out several times, Chen Hao was still in a daze and didn't respond. The old god had no choice but to speak directly in his mind. Ah. Voila. Chen Hao jumped up from the spirit spring. Almost there? What a comfortable feeling. Congratulations, Master. Congratulations? What are you congratulating me for? Cough cough. Master, don't you feel that your soul, mind, and body have become more agile? There's a kind of tension that can be sent out at will. Carefully sense the heavenly Tao laws contained in the chaotic space. Chen Hao revealed a puzzled expression. At this moment, he really did feel very comfortable and his essence, energy, and spirit were unprecedentedly full. But wasn't this normal? After relaxing for so long, he naturally felt much better. But after hearing the old god's words, Chen Hao urged his mind to merge into the chaotic space. A moment later, Chen Hao's expression changed. The heavenly Tao laws that he could no longer comprehend seemed to become active once more. This meant that Chen Hao had found a new breakthrough. In particular, the speed at which his mind revolved surprised Chen Hao. This was because even though he hadn't stimulated it much, he had already reached his original peak speed. What's going on? The effect of sleeping has actually broken through my own limits? Chen Hao asked in surprise. Master, this is the merciless Grand Tao that eliminates pseudo-Yuanjing. If I'm not wrong, then Master's deep sleep this time has probably eliminated all the useless and redundant memories on your own. Your mind and soul have been purified, causing Master's mind to circulate faster, and your mind and soul to become clearer. Chen Hao's mind stirred and the thoughts in his mind flashed. He immediately said, No, I haven't forgotten anything. Master, what you've forgotten is what you'll never remember again. To be exact, you haven't really forgotten, but you've imperceptibly sealed away those memories that are no longer of any use to you. You can't recall them now even if you want to. Unless by chance, When you encounter someone or something that you've sealed away, it will automatically appear. In other words, it won't have any bad effects on you. Well, master, hurry up and take out the aircraft. I can't stay outside. According to the star chart, we'll be near vast universe star in 3 days at most. How long have I slept? Chen Hao frowned and asked. 2 months and 8 days. Then we've been flying for 4 months and 8 days? Yes. We could have arrived a long time ago, but I was afraid of disturbing you, so I deliberately slowed down. Old God didn't explain anything further. He believed that with Chen Hao's perception, he would definitely be able to figure out the mystery of this invisible upgrade. The miniature aircraft turned into a stream of light and sped forward again. Chen Hao stared at the chaotic space in front of him and the rapidly changing scenery. His eyes shone with a touch of excitement. Vast universe star, the true core of the vast universe star system, the peak existence. It was also the place where all the peak powerhouses and true geniuses of the vast universe star system gathered. Now he had come. Chapter 628. Phew. The vast universe star is the core of the human race's power and force. It's a pinnacle holy land. It would be best if I could hide my identity, but if I couldn't, those guys wouldn't dare to act rashly on the vast universe star, would they? Even if they knew I was here, they wouldn't be able to catch up with me in time. Chen Hao thought to himself. He hadn't dared to land on the second world, because he was worried that the Asianing Star Alliance would lock onto him through the signal of the second world. If he was intercepted in the chaotic space, he wouldn't be able to contend with them. After all, the miniature aircraft he was using now was not the modified Silver Wing. Moreover, there were rumors that if the other party were to hunt him down, they would definitely send out a more powerful aircraft. Whether it was the miniature aircraft or the speed of the old god, they were definitely inferior to the other party. But now, Chen Hao didn't have to worry about anything. In 3 days he would be able to enter the vast universe star. Even if he landed on the second world now, and was discovered by the Asianing Star Alliance, they wouldn't be able to catch up with him. However, Chen Hao didn't land on the second world. If he didn't have to, he wouldn't expose himself. In these 10 years, all he wanted to do was to cultivate in peace. He wanted to advance bravely on his own path. He didn't want to be pestered endlessly by the other party, especially. After this relaxing deep sleep, Chen Hao actually made a step further in his cultivation. He faintly understood that he had thought about it before but never really cared about it. Or it could be said that he had always been nervous about the pace of his cultivation. There was simply no time for him to calm down and think about it. Crazy cultivation was indeed one of the necessary conditions to reach the pinnacle of martial arts, but appropriate relaxation was also indispensable. Tension and relaxation were the Tao of civil and martial arts. This was the simplest Tao companion, a principle that everyone knew, but not many people could really do it. This time, Chen Hao truly realized its importance. 3 days later, Chen Hao put away the miniature aircraft. After exerting a tremendous effort, he barely broke through the incomparably tough space barrier of the vast universe star. Phew. As expected of the pinnacle holy land of the human race, this aura. The moment he appeared, Chen Hao was shocked by the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and the law of heaven in the endless wilderness. At this moment he was just a stowaway, but in the endless wilderness, Chen Hao could clearly feel that the law of heaven and earth and spiritual qi of heaven and earth in Xiantian City on the Yang planet were more abundant. What would happen if he went to the city on the vast universe star? In fact, the wilderness of any planet could not be completely monitored by the human tribe. Chen Hao's so-called stowaways were not accurate, because many practitioners in the celestial immortal realm traveled the starry sky in this way. After all, except for the Alliance, the major vital planets, and the big forces, not many people could own aircrafts. Moreover, some cultivators would choose this method in order to hide their tracks. However, if one wanted to enter the city, they would need to have the identity of someone from the vast universe galaxy. This is a point. Secondly, in the wilderness of any planet, the so-called heavenly demons, earth demons, and monsters could all be foreign invaders, just like the beast tide from the outer realm on the Wuxia planet. Of course, this was the human tribe's way of saying, For the alien races, they were practitioners who had entered the human tribe to gain experience. It was just like when a human tribe expert entered a planet of an alien race. No one could completely defend against them, and there was no way to restrict them. According to the galaxy map, the volume of the vast universe star is millions of times larger than that of the Yang planet. The volume of this planet alone is equivalent to 1/10 of the area controlled by the Yang planet. Chen Hao gazed at the endless deep mountains, old forests, and unbroken mountain peaks. He felt carefree and excited, like a fish returning to the sea or a bird flying out of a cage. He released his powerful soul perception, and found that the area within tens of thousands of miles was filled with the aura of powerful demonic beasts. Occasionally, the roars of beasts could be heard, which contained endless coercion. This made Chen Hao faintly excited. It seemed that the place where he appeared after breaking the space barrier happened to be somewhere on the vast universe star that was an excellent place to gain experience. It's not bad to gain experience here, but I have to find a city and check it out first. Hiss. Thinking of this, Chen Hao suppressed his strong desire to fight. He turned into a breeze, picked a direction and sped off. Patriarch, Long Ting and Long Yi of the Long family are about to trigger heaven's punishment. What? Is the news accurate? When is it set? News from the Heaven's Punishment Observation Center of the Alliance. Long Yi 3 days later in the morning. Long Ting 4 days later in the morning. 3 days later. What should we do? Is there any news from Xiaonu? No. The young master should still be on the Blaze planet. He hasn't landed on the second world so far. I've already informed all the pilots of the Alliance's aircraft that have gone to the Blaze planet. They will certainly inform us as soon as they have any news. Patriarch, I don't know if I should say this, but I feel that the young master's opportunity this time is a bit strange. Speak. The 20 men of sacrifice who went with the young master are all dead. Without a doubt, they were killed by Long Ting, Long Yi, and Chen Hao of the Wuji planet. According to the time of their death and the information from the people who returned from the Blaze planet, the young master's opportunity should be in 1 month's time. Long Ting and Long Yi also showed up at the great opportunity after the young master, but they showed up last. I don't think it makes sense. After all, the young master brought 20 men of sacrifice to deal with them. If the 3 of them could kill 20 Earth God Realm experts, the young master would be hunted down by the 3 of them no matter how powerful he is. They can't be too far away. That's not necessarily true. Xiaonu is resourceful. Maybe he didn't expose himself at all. If the 3 of them could kill 20 Earth God Realm experts, Xiaonu wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Patriarch, you're right. But it's been more than half a year. No matter how powerful the Blaze planet's great opportunity is, the young master should have finished it long ago with his talent and comprehension. Then what do you mean? Well, I'm worried that the young master is trapped on the Blaze planet. Or he's in a predicament that we can't predict. Patriarch, if it's possible, I'd like to go and have a look. Well, I'll find a way to let the Alliance arrange for you to be the leader of the next batch of cultivators. What a pity. I didn't expect Long Ting and Long Yi to be so powerful. If I had known, I wouldn't have arranged 20 men of sacrifice. Fortunately, Xiaonu's life is not in danger now, otherwise. Go. Yes. The man who reported the news disappeared in front of the patriarch of the Guo family. This man was the expert who monitored Long Ting's every move, and was also one of the closest people to Guanu. After the man left, the patriarch of the Guo family frowned and paced back and forth for a full hour. Finally, he couldn't help but go to the second world and send a message to the Supreme of Hongmeng, Yan Baitian. He wasn't worried about Guanu's safety, because he knew how powerful Guanu's trump card was. What he was most worried about was that Long Ting would trigger heavenly punishment. How could he not know what that meant? Once Long Ting ascended to the Earth Immortal stage, she would be heading to the vast universe star. With her ancient inheritance and her unique cultivation method, how strong would she be after reaching the Earth Immortal stage? It was very likely that she would attack the vast universe temple. At that time, even if Guanu followed her to the vast universe temple, it would be 100 times, 1,000 times harder to get Long Ting. Therefore, he could only ask Yan Baitian for help. He also believed that Yan Baitian was probably more anxious than him. The most important thing now was to find Guan Yu as soon as possible. No matter what kind of great opportunity Guan Yu had obtained on the Blaze planet, he couldn't lose the big picture for the small. Secondly, he had to take down Long Ting before she attacked the vast universe temple. And all of this couldn't be done by the Guo family alone, because he couldn't be absolutely sure that he hadn't alerted the enemy. Once Long Ting knew that it was Guan Yu who was going after her on the Blaze planet, how could the Long family not do anything? Ha! You've also received the news? Of course. This is Xiantian City's big event this year. We must attend the ceremony. Of course. Long Yi could have become an Earth Immortal 10 years ago, but he didn't trigger the heavenly punishment. The unrivaled Immortal's heavenly punishment is already very exciting, not to mention the #1 beauty of Xiantian City, Long Ting. Yes. The power Long Ting displayed in the second world last time was terrifying to the extreme. In terms of pure strength, it's far from what an unrivaled immortal like Long Yi can compare to. Although we've always known that she's terrifying, we didn't expect her to be that terrifying. I think that even if Guan Yu doesn't give in to Long Ting, he'll still be beaten up. It's not that exaggerated. Last time on the Blaze planet, there was news of how strong Guan Yu was. He's definitely not someone Long Ting can compare to. However, in our entire Xiantian City, the two of them are the strongest among the younger generation. I really don't know why Long Ting would reject Guan Yu again and again. Who knows? But rumor has it that Long Ting has an ambiguous relationship with Chen Hao, who caused a sensation in the vast universe galaxy. I'm afraid they've already confirmed their relationship. It's a pity that Chen Hao is doomed. At the teleportation center of the Xiantian City Alliance, many disciples who had rushed back were discussing Long Ting, Long Yi, and the genius Chen Hao, who caused a sensation in the vast universe galaxy. Obviously, some things were no longer a secret with the existence of the second world. Even the slightest bit of attention could spread throughout the cultivation world in an instant. The disciples who had rushed back at this moment had obviously received the news that Long Ting and Long Yi had triggered the heavenly punishment. Triggering the heavenly punishment, especially for the top geniuses of the Ya'ing planet, was a grand occasion in Xiantian City. Even the unrivaled immortal Long Yi alone was enough to summon these disciples, let alone Long Ting, the unrivaled immortal of Xiantian City. Everyone wanted to see how powerful the heavenly punishment was, and at the same time they wanted to learn something from it. Chapter 629. The day before Long Yi triggered the heavenly punishment, the Long family's manor, which had always been empty, began to bustle with activity half a month ago. Of course, this liveliness was relative to the original desolation. At this moment, in the huge and majestic palace hall at the core of the Long family manor, there were 26 people sitting in the central chairman's seat. Other than the two juniors, Long Yi and Long Ting, this was all the strength of the Long family that could rush back to the Long family in the past half a year. Of course, other than the direct descendants who had not been in seclusion for a long time, this was all the strength of the Long family now. Outside the central chairman's seat, which was on both sides of the hall, there were some male and female cultivators whose auras were not weak at all. Moreover, some of their auras were extremely powerful. If Chen Hao was present at this moment, he would definitely be more surprised, or perhaps it would be strange, because ordinary people could not understand these seats at all. Was it based on one's cultivation, seniority, or just sitting casually? It was said that it was based on one's cultivation, but some people who were obviously not strong sat above those who were stronger than them. A few people with extremely strong auras did not even have the qualifications to sit in the chairman's seat. If it was based on seniority, it was obvious that those who looked younger were suppressing those who were older. It was even more unlikely to say that they were sitting casually because whether it was strength or seniority, they were alternating between pairs. In fact, only those who were familiar with the Long family would understand. Those who sat around the main seats were all direct descendants of the Long family. In other words, there were only 26 direct descendants of the Long family present. Those on the second seats were all Dao companions of the Long family's direct descendants. No matter how strong or weak they were not qualified to sit in the chairman's seat. Although the Long family's reproduction was weak, as a large family, the hierarchy was still strict. The 26 people on the chairman's seat were men and women, but half of them looked like old men. One of them was Heavenly Venerable Long Xiang, who Chen Hao had seen before, Long Yi and Long Ting's uncle. Sitting above Heavenly Venerable Long Xiang was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s, and his aura was not stronger than Heavenly Venerable Long Xiang's. This scene was very strange, but the people of the Long family did not find it strange at all. The reason was simple. Half of those who looked young were direct descendants of the Long family who had the ability to reproduce. As for those who looked older, they were the direct descendants who were unable to reproduce. In the cultivation world, along with the advancement of one's cultivation and age, one's appearance would become more and more important, especially after one attained the heavenly immortal realm. Possessing the appearance of a young man wasn't just as simple as being handsome, and most importantly, it was able to display the potential of a cultivator to a certain extent. The younger one was, the more room for growth one had. The older one was, the less potential one had. This meant that all the Long family's disciples who had the ability to reproduce were young because they hadn't reached their limits yet. Ever since the disappearance of the Long family's elder ancestor, the number of direct descendants in the Long family dwindled. It was as if they had been cursed by a powerful and unknown curse. It had become a sore point for everyone in the Long family. As for the Long family, they had given Long Ting and Long Yi, the youngest generation, too much hope, the greatest hope. Although they didn't understand what was going on, they knew that it definitely had something to do with the Long family's elder ancestor. Moreover, ever since the Long family's elder ancestor disappeared, there hadn't been a single expert from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm in the Long family. This made them faintly feel that once a new expert from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm was born in the Long family, they might be able to break this unknown curse. And Long Ting and Long Yi were their greatest hope. In terms of talent and comprehension, Long Yi was stronger than Long Ting. Moreover, the physique of a direct descendant of the Long family gave them greater potential. Even if their talent and comprehension weren't as good as other cultivators, their future achievements would definitely be greater. This was a special characteristic of the Long family's bloodline inheritance. However, Long Ting's luck and opportunity were the strongest in the Long family. When she was still in her mother's womb, the current head of the Long family had unexpectedly obtained an ancient spiritual treasure, and it was a spiritual treasure that could only be used by someone in the womb. This was Long Ting's luck. Similarly, Long Ting's limited experience under the protection of the family's experts also proved this point, and now, Long Ting possessed terrifying power. Even if she didn't use power that didn't belong to her, she had no match among the same generation. Even Long Yi couldn't compare to her. This made the Long family value Long Ting more and more. They treated her like a treasure and nurtured her at all costs. But half a year ago, after Long Ting, Long Yi, and Chen Hao returned from the Blazing Star, the Long family actually received news that Long Ting had almost been consigned to eternal damnation by Guanyu Fury. A great earthquake shook the entire Long family. However, in view of Chen Hao's final victory and the solution, as well as the Guo family's strength and Guanyu's Grand Mist Supremacy Realm Master, the Long family temporarily suppressed this anger. However, this didn't mean that they would endure it forever. And when he learned that Long Ting and Long Yi were going to trigger divine punishment, the head of the Long family immediately ordered all the direct descendants of the Long family to return. Once Long Ting and Long Yi stepped into the Earth's celestial stage, they knew very well what it meant. In particular, the Guo family, Guanyu or Yan Baitian, the Lord of Hongmeng, and the others, had exposed their ambitions to the Long family and Long Ting. Although they didn't know that they had been exposed, how could the Long family not expect that the other party might make a move? And now, it was the best time for the Long family to get angry, because Yan Baitian, the Lord of Hongmeng, had strangely left, and the head of the Long family vaguely guessed that it might not be for a short time. He didn't know the specific reason, but through the situation reported to him by Long Ting and Long Yi, he vaguely guessed a possibility. However, how likely it was not something they could know at their level. But in any case, now was the chance for them to get angry. The first family, the Guo family? The barefooted were not afraid of those with shoes. The Long family only had so few people, and all of them were elites. For them, the competition was only about the top martial arts, and they didn't have to worry about any small fry. Who's afraid of who? To the various large clans and powers, this was the reason why the Long clan was the most feared. In terms of martial arts, the Long family was not weaker than any other family. They didn't have any burdens. At most, they were Long Ting and Long Yi, two juniors who needed to be protected. What were they afraid of? Whether it was playing dirty or playing with the sun, he wasn't afraid. Is everything ready? The head of the Long family, who was also Long Ting and Long Yi's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, swept his gaze across the crowd as he spoke. I'm ready. But, Patriarch, if Yan Bei Tian doesn't care about his reputation and attacks, there's no need to worry. This time, after Xiao Ting and Xiao Yi attracted the heavenly punishment, all of us will accompany them. All you need to know is that our opponent is the Guo family. As for the rest, I've already made arrangements. The Long family's patriarch's eyes shone brightly as he spoke with confidence. Yes, Patriarch. Long Xiang. Here. Are you sure the news won't be leaked? Don't worry, family head. I started the arrangements 3 months ago. I can guarantee that the Alliance and Guo family know nothing about it. Seniors, you only need to do as I've arranged. This is your departure location and identity information, as well as information on the flying devices and slaves you've purchased. You can use this identity when you leave Xiantian City. Celestial Venerable Long Xiang held a position in the Alliance's Flying Devices Department. He'd used his position to secretly deal with some matters according to the Patriarch's intentions. Of course, the amount of money he'd spent was enormous. Celestial Venerable Long Xiang knew just how terrifying the Patriarch's fury was from the price he'd paid. He dared to touch Long Ting? That was the price. Very good. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, don't reveal any flaws during Xiao Yi and Xiao Ting's ceremony. I believe the Guo family will be there. Do what you need to do. Our advantage is that we're in the dark and have the initiative. Yes? Do you have any other questions? If not, you're dismissed. The Long family's patriarch glanced at the crowd, then turned to the non-direct descendants sitting on the two sides. Patriarch. Right at this moment, a beautiful woman who looked to be in her 30s and had an appearance that was rather similar to Long Ting stood up and spoke with a frown. What's wrong, Xiaoyan? The Long family's patriarch's expression became very affectionate as he asked. Ting Ting seems to have consumed a one-yang nirvana pill. The beautiful woman said rather hesitantly. This beautiful woman was none other than Long Ting and Long Yi's biological mother, Lu Yin. Ah. What? Xiaoyan, are you sure? In an instant, everyone present was astonished. The Long family's clan leader, Long Xiang, who was also Long Ting's father, Long Xing, was astonished and asked, What's the matter? They naturally knew what a one-yang nirvana pill was. Although they didn't know how this pill was refined, and even the Long family's patriarch didn't know, they knew what it meant for Long Ting to consume this pill. Lu Yin was Long Ting's mother. When Long Ting was still in her mother's womb, she'd inherited the great opportunity of an ancient spirit treasure. Strictly speaking, the first person to receive the inheritance wasn't Long Ting, but Lu Yin, who'd accepted it on Dai Longting's behalf. This was because Long Ting in her mother's womb had to rely on Lu Yin to follow the instructions of the ancient spirit treasure's inheritance and transform Long Ting completely. Therefore, Lu Yin was the one who knew best. The first person to see the Long family's secret manual was not Long Ting, but her mother, Lu Yin. In fact, all the spiritual fruits and spiritual water that Long Ting used to take baths since she was young were made by Lu Yin before Long Ting stepped into the human celestial stage. Lu Yin had even warned Long Ting that she couldn't open the secret manual completely before she'd decided on a cultivation partner. However, this time the mother and daughter were connected by heart. In addition, she was familiar with the ancient spirit treasure's inheritance formula, so she could clearly sense her daughter's abnormality. She knew the Long family's uniqueness, so she didn't say anything. However, at this moment, especially when she saw how much the patriarch valued Long Ting, which had far exceeded her expectations, she had no choice but to say it. Third update. Chapter 630. It shouldn't be wrong. It's that. Chen Hao. It should be. She's about to trigger the heavenly punishment. I was afraid of disturbing her mental state, so I didn't dare to ask her. Lu Yun said. Hearing Lu Yun's words, everyone fell silent and looked at the patriarch of the Long family. For the children of the Long family, they had to marry into the Long family if they were male. This was the rule of the Long family. There were 14 generations from the current patriarch to now. There were 13 generations and 26 people present. There were no exceptions. The reason for this was that ever since the Long family's ancestor disappeared, the Long family had been cursed by a powerful unknown curse. There were only 2 people in each generation. The direct line of descent had already withered, so how could he let his children leave the Long family? Furthermore, in the cultivation world, especially for genius disciples, even if they had a Tao partner, it was usually only in name. Before their potential was fully tapped, they would not really dual cultivate, let alone have children. This meant that the Long family did not even know who was the inheritor of the Long family's bloodline between Long Ting and Long Yi. Even though the Long family's bloodline had always been passed down by males, it did not mean that this generation was definitely Long Yi. This was because it could be seen that the Long family's bloodline had always been passed down by males. However, these males were also the stronger of the 2 in the same generation. And now, Long Ting was stronger than Long Yi. This meant that Long Ting was very likely to be the inheritor of the Long family's bloodline. How could she decide on a Tao partner without passing the family's test? They were already aware of Chen Hao's situation. Naturally, he fulfilled the Long family's test in all aspects. However, people like Chen Hao were the least likely to become the Long family's son-in-law. The reason was simple. This kind of person was too outstanding and had many Tao partners. Furthermore, he had the hope of the Wuxia star. Similarly, such people were also proud people. How could they agree to the Long family's conditions? Therefore, everyone in the Long family felt a headache. For now. Let's not ask her for now. This Chen Hao is not bad, but if he doesn't agree to marry into the Long family, it won't do. He has only consumed the One Yang Nirvana pill, so the problem is not serious. If it really doesn't work, we can refine the antidote and force out the essence. However, Xiao Yun, from today onwards, don't stay away from shouting. Pay close attention to her. Oh, crash. Within the cultivation room, Long Ting was comfortably soaking in the spirit medicinal water, concocted from the top-grade spirit spring, and she didn't seem to care about the heavenly punishment in the slightest. It's been more than 4 months. According to the speed of his aircraft, he should have already traveled about half the distance. Who knows, I might even reach vast universe star before him. He. Long Ting, who was bathing, was as beautiful as a flower. Her graceful and exquisite body was faintly discernible in the clear spring water. This girl had no idea that her secret had been discovered by her mother. Furthermore, everyone in the Long family except for Long Yi knew about it. I've already had an episode. I wonder if he has. I miss him so much. Is this the feeling of true love? Due to her innate personality and cultivation method, Long Ting had always been a lonely person since she was young. Otherwise, Xiaoji Wan would not have almost crashed. However, she had never missed someone so much. Moreover, this feeling was very subtle. It made her no longer feel lonely and bored. There was only that kind of painful and happy longing. Time seemed to pass by slowly, but sometimes, just thinking about him and not doing anything would allow a few days to pass. Long Ting felt as if her heart had also followed Chen Hao's departure and circled around him. She imagined what he was doing, where he was going, whether he was in danger, and whether he missed her as much as she missed him. This kind of dreamy feeling was something that Long Ting had never experienced before. When the heavenly punishment ends, we can set off. If you don't want me to follow you, I can come secretly. I'm doing this to maximize the effects of the medicine. Is that reason enough? The next day, at the heavenly punishment square in the center of the alliance. Early in the morning, the square was already packed with people. Countless young disciples from Xiantian City flocked to the square. Even Tianjun, who had gone out to train, dared to return and appeared at the square. Tianjun had known about Chen Hao for a long time. However, he only knew that Chen Hao had offended the powerful Happy Valley and was abandoned by the spineless Wuxia star. He did not know the details. Although he felt injustice for Chen Hao, it was not something he could interfere in. Moreover, his friendship with Chen Hao was limited to Long Yi and Long Ting. However, he had heard that Long Yi and Long Ting were going to trigger the heavenly punishment and step into the Earth Immortal realm. Moreover, Long Yi also told him that after becoming an Earth Immortal, he would go to Vast Universe Star. He had been an Earth Immortal for a long time, but he had been accumulating strength and did not go to Vast Universe Star directly. However, now that both Long Yi and Long Ting were going, he naturally would not stay on Ying Planet. Similarly, the brothers Zui Hongqian and Zui Fanqian, Mo Xiaozong, Yun Zhongjian, and other genius disciples of the Earth Immortal and Human Immortal realm had all come. Some genius disciples even gave up on their missions, or went into seclusion to watch the ceremony. When these people came in and saw each other, they were all surprised by the sensation caused by Long Yi and Long Ting. They were even more envious of each other's fame. Moreover, they were sure that if the heavenly tribulation they attracted this time wasn't bad, then they would surely be able to obtain extremely great karmic luck. This caused all the genius disciples to secretly ponder about what they should do to cause an even greater commotion than Long Yi and Long Ting. However, when these guys saw countless masters of the Heaven Immortal realm and countless bigwigs of the Ying Planet coming to watch the ceremony, this idea was shattered into pieces. It was already very unlikely for them to be able to match Long Yi and Long Ting, let alone surpass them. Perhaps on the entire Ying Planet, only Guanu, who had outstanding status, and talent, could cause such a big sensation. Of course, everyone knew that the one they were really looking forward to was Long Ting. Long Yi was strong, but he must have benefited from Long Ting. It's been 10 years. Long Yi, who had been sitting cross-legged in the center of the square surrounded by many arrays, was now sitting cross-legged. His energy, qi, and spirit had been adjusted to the best state. He was like an unsheathed sword, piercing straight to the sky. His fighting spirit was like the rhythm before the eruption of a volcano. He was forcibly suppressing it, but as time went by, it was still getting stronger and stronger. For the hidden task of the arena of the second world, I've confined myself for 10 years. Now it's time for me to explode. I, Long Yi, am not just an invincible Earth Immortal. Swish. Long Yi opened his eyes. Today, after 10 years, his fierce eyes finally burst out unscrupulously. He used to be extremely dazzling. He was second to none among the younger generation of the entire Xiantian city. However, because he deliberately suppressed it, he did not break through to the Earth Immortal realm too early. Instead, his brilliance gradually faded. In particular, after the genius disciples of his age stepped into the Earth Immortal realm one by one, he was originally the center of attention. Although no one dared to look down on him, and everyone knew that he deliberately suppressed his cultivation stage, eventually his brilliance faded a lot. Now Long Yi had finally completed the hidden task of the second world. Moreover, he had obtained an amazing reward from the mystery realm. This time, it was time for him to show his brilliance again. This time, it was time for him to obtain glory once again. He believed that this time, just by triggering the punishment of heaven, everyone would understand that his 10 years of seclusion would definitely skyrocket today. What a powerful aura. What a terrifying essence, chi spirit and fighting spirit. This Long Yi has confined himself for 10 years. It seems like he's finally going to explode. Although it hasn't started yet, I feel that the punishment he's going to trigger will be ridiculously strong. Yes. In these few years, although Long Yi has lost his glory at the beginning, no one dares to look down on him. There must be an important reason for his 10 years of seclusion. Long Yi, who had become one with heaven and earth, could easily hear the discussions around him. However, this was not enough. This was because he believed that when the punishment of heaven descended, it would still shock them. However, brother, you're the best. You're as good as Chen Hao. Come on. Ha ha ha. Long Yi, who was unleashing his aura, willpower, chi, spirit, and fighting spirit without restraint, heard his sister's voice transmission from afar. Although he didn't want to admit it, his sister's praise made him rather, a little unhappy. Since young, he had been his sister's idol, but now, however, he was only depressed for a short while. Long Yi smiled and looked at his sister confidently. His sister had grown up and had the person she liked the most. Wasn't this a good thing? Moreover, his sister's words were a little encouraging. He was not convinced by others, but for Chun Hao, he had to be convinced. In this world, only such a person was worthy of his sister, right? However, as her brother, he also had to fight for his pride, right? Although nothing was set in stone yet, what if Chun Hao wanted to bully his sister in the future? If he didn't have any strength, how could he do it? Then he would come at him even more fiercely. Long Yi suddenly made up his mind that he hadn't made up before. The determination that the runes in the square couldn't protect him, but could increase the power of heaven's punishment, and by how much? At this moment Long Yi, who was provoked by his sister's words, suddenly had a violent surge of aura. Ha ha ha. Right at that moment, Long Ting started to laugh in a seemingly heartless manner. Boom. Finally, before the 7 o'clock hour, the aura that Long Yi had forcefully suppressed erupted like a volcano that had been dormant for thousands of years. Chi chi chi. Boom boom boom. The moment Long Yi's aura pierced through the void, a terrifying wave of heaven and earth energy started to spread in all directions at an alarming speed. The heaven and earth energy surged and gathered, and the tribulation cloud quickly condensed and became stronger. Chapter 631. Condense, condense, and condense again. When the heaven and earth energy, pressure, and heaven and earth ripples contained in the heaven and earth tribulation cloud exceeded everyone's initial estimation of Long Yi, everyone already believed that Long Yi's 10 years of purposeful confinement was worth it and correct. However, the first heaven and earth tribulation cloud still didn't explode. It was still gathering and becoming stronger. When the heavenly punishment ended and Long Yi released the aura of an earth celestial, it caused an uproar among the cultivators who were watching the ceremony. Even the elders of the Long family who knew Long Yi best were shocked and excited. The strength of the heavenly punishment was comparable to that of a peak late-stage earth celestial, which was quite shocking. Moreover, Long Yi had asked the Alliance to activate the runes in the square and double the power of the heavenly punishment. Not bad. Judging from the power of the heavenly punishment, and the aura of this little guy who just stepped into the earth celestial stage, he's almost as strong as my old friend. This trip was worth it. That little girl seems to be more outstanding. Let's see tomorrow. No one knew that in the dense crowd of spectators, an inconspicuous old man narrowed his eyes as he looked at Long Yi, who had successfully passed the heavenly punishment, and nodded in satisfaction. Then the mysterious old man disappeared into the crowd. In just one day, the news that Long Yi had triggered a heavenly punishment that exceeded everyone's expectations and had doubled its power shocked the entire Xiantian city, and even the cultivation world of the Yang planet. However, on the second day it was broken by Long Ting, a freakish witch. The heavenly punishment that Long Ting had triggered was not much stronger than Long Yi's, but not only had she resisted the heavenly punishment, but she had also asked the Alliance to increase the power of the heavenly punishment by 6 times. At that time, all the experts present were sure that such power was enough to instantly kill an expert at the peak of the late Earth celestial stage. Moreover, it was definitely not an ordinary expert at the peak of the late Earth celestial stage. However, Long Ting was still able to pass the heavenly tribulation easily. If Long Yi's performance yesterday had satisfied the mysterious old man, then Long Ting's performance today had shocked the old man. As for the Guo family patriarch who had come to watch the ceremony, while he was shocked, he was determined to take Long Ting down as soon as possible. He was determined to take her down at all costs. That kid can really endure it. Long Ting and Long Yi attracted heavenly punishment, but they didn't come out. Could it be that they're already not in the Long family? That's impossible. We took turns to guard him. Even if it's the head of the Long family, it's impossible for him to bring out a living person without any abnormalities, right? That's right, that's right. But if this brat really leaves the Long clan, I'm afraid we won't be able to explain ourselves. I think we should confuse the public. Do you remember the time when the Long clan's patriarch sent out a powerful protective restriction? You discovered it? Fuck. You discovered us at the same time. How can you be so stupid? Ahem, yes, we discovered it at the same time. Just now. Hurry up and report to the Valley Master. We don't know if we brought anyone out. Okay. These two fellows who had ulterior motives were only guarding their posts for a while before the change of shifts. If they had been there all the time, they would have been able to confirm whether Chun Hao had left or not. Although it was only their own assumption, the key was that they hadn't been monitoring him all the time, and they couldn't trust their subordinates who were at the Earth celestial stage. Therefore, until now, especially when Long Yi and Long Ting attracted heavenly punishment, they didn't see any trace of Chun Hao. This made them start to worry, and they had no choice but to shirk responsibility. Beep, beep, beep. On the third day after Long Ting passed heavenly punishment, the Guo family patriarch, who was mobilizing forces in the Guo family's secret chamber, suddenly received a message in the second world. When he saw the number, he frowned slightly. What? They're leaving now? When he saw the message, he exclaimed in shock. Patriarch. What's wrong? The Long family's actions are so fast. They've just passed heavenly punishment. Why are they leaving now? Aren't they going to let them consolidate their cultivation? Patriarch, is the Long family leaving with Long Ting and Long Yi now? It's only been 3 days. I thought it would take at least a few months, or even longer. Looks like the Long family is very confident in Long Ting and Long Yi. Luckily, we've already started preparing. Although it's a bit rushed, fortunately, they didn't realize the danger at all. Only their parents, Long Xing and Lu Yun, are escorting Long Ting and Long Yi. This can save us a lot of money. Beep beep beep. As the Guo family patriarch, Guo Dongshan, spoke, he sent out several messages urgently. One of them was to inform the people who were contacting the top experts in Vast Universe Star. There was no other way. Yin Baitian still hadn't replied, so they couldn't count on him. Originally, they thought that the Long family patriarch, Long Yuan, would escort Long Ting and Long Yi to Vast Universe Star, and the Guo family, including the patriarch, didn't have the confidence to take down Long Yuan. Therefore, they had to have the help of a top expert who could suppress Long Yuan. Of course, the price would be very high. But now there was no need to spend such a large sum of money, because they just received news that the people escorting Long Yi and Long Ting were only their parents, who were heavenly immortal experts. Obviously, the Long family didn't realize the Guo family's threat at all, which meant that Guo Nu didn't expose himself at all on Blazing Flame Star. In an instant, the Guo family's experts gathered in the hall. Then they disappeared at the same time, changed their identities and auras, and rushed to the field where the Alliance's aircraft was parked. Without Long Yuan, what did Guo Dongshan have to fear? He could seal the victory by himself. Moreover, there were a few Guo family experts who were already prepared. Unfortunately, he didn't expect that he was wrong from the beginning. Not to mention that he didn't contact Yin Baitian, an expert from the Grand Miss Supremacy realm. Even if he did, they were destined to return in failure and pay a heavy price. Boom. The Long family's giant aircraft suddenly tore through the void and entered the chaotic space. Father, Mother, although my sister and I are in a hurry to leave, I haven't completely consolidated my realm. Is there a need to be in such a hurry? In the aircraft, Long Yi looked at his parents and asked in confusion. Being in the aircraft won't affect your consolidation of your realm. Alright, you can just cultivate in peace. Long Xing looked at Long Yi and said, Father, why do I feel like there's something wrong? Mother, you've been acting weird these 2 days. Ahem, you little girl, you're the one acting weird. Don't think that Mother doesn't know anything. In the future, Mother will be by your side every day. Otherwise, you'll turn a deaf ear to everything I've said to you. What are you saying, Mother? Alright, both of you go cultivate. You have to consolidate your understanding of divine punishment early. Go. Long Xing directly sent out 2 waves of energy, activating the restriction function of the aircraft, isolating Long Yi and Long Ting. Then he looked at Lu Yun and said, How can you say it now? What if it affects her state of mind? I know better than you. That girl Tingting is very careless in some aspects. Not to mention that I didn't say it out loud. Even if I said it out loud, it wouldn't affect her. Patriarch told us to wait for news after we enter the chaotic space. What kind of news is it? He's being so mysterious. Who knows? Family had said that Yin Baitian wasn't afraid. I'm afraid. He invited an expert? The news is here. Long Xing, who was talking, suddenly said. Obviously, he had received the news in the second world. Open the door of the aircraft? Hurry up. Just do as I say. Yes. Qi. Longxing and Lu Yun were confused by the master's order, but they still carried it out immediately. When the door of the aircraft opened, they didn't expect a figure to appear in front of them as fast as lightning without making a sound. This is the ancestor's best friend, the lifeless sex grand elder, Xie Sun, Supreme Hongmeng. Only the two of you know about this. Family head Long Yuan's voice said to Longxing and Lu Yun in the second world. Ah. Junior Longxing Lu Yun greets Senior. Longxing and Long Yun immediately bowed and said excitedly. Now the two of them finally understood where the patriarch's confidence came from. No need for formalities. Are those two little fellows comprehending and cultivating? Yes, Senior. Longxing said respectfully. He was both excited and surprised. He was excited because such an expert had appeared, and he didn't have to worry at all. He was surprised because the old man's first sentence was to ask about Long Yi and Long Ting. Moreover, his tone showed that he had seen Long Ting and Long Yi before, and liked them very much. If the two of them have stabilized their realm, let them come out and have a chat with the old man. I'm very happy that my old friend has such descendants. Yes, Senior. You don't have to be so formal. Do what you have to do. Don't worry about me. Open the space for me alone. The old man said considerately when he saw Longxing and Lu Yun's respectful manner. If he were to sit there, the two of them wouldn't even dare to breathe loudly. Yes. That was indeed the case. After the independent space was opened, Longxing and Lu Yun looked at each other and wiped the sweat off their faces. Even though the old man in front of them had retracted all of his aura and looked like an ordinary old man, the two of them still couldn't help but feel the pressure on their hearts. This was a close friend of the Long clan's patriarch, so how old was he? How powerful was he? At least the two of them couldn't imagine. Qi. While Longxing controlled the aircraft to fly toward the depths of the chaotic space, 5 gigantic aircraft that were larger than the Long family's aircraft broke through the space barrier at an astonishing speed. They turned into streams of light and temporarily bypassed the main path, quickly heading toward vast universe star. Chapter 632. If they wanted to deal with the Long family, they had to seal off all possibilities of information leaking out. This was not something that the Shiman family and the other 5 major forces could compare to when they dealt with the Wuxia star. Not to mention that the Long family's patriarch, Long Yuan, was an invincible golden immortal expert. Even the Long family's more than 20 direct descendants and Dao companions could definitely cause chaos and unrest in the Guo family. Moreover, the forces and wealth that the Long family was on good terms with would be a huge threat to the Guo family. Therefore, it was fine if they did not make a move. But if they did, they had to ensure that this news did not leak out. Otherwise, the absent Long family members would become the Guo family's nightmare. Because of this, even if the Guo family's operation was in the chaotic space, they had to enter the blind spot of the second world signal. Therefore, they had to rush to the blind spot of the Long family's aircraft and wait in advance to intercept and kill. Beep beep beep. 3 days later, Long Ting, who did not need to comprehend much at all, habitually entered the second world to see if there was any news. During this period, Long Ting did not dare to enter the second world because 10 times the time was simply too unbearable. It was absolutely torturous for her, who had just awakened to love. Therefore, she only logged in a few times a day to check if there was any news about Chenhao. This time, 2 notifications sounded in her mind as soon as she entered. Verification application? Long Ting frowned in disappointment. One of them was from her father, and the other was a verification application. Long Ting would occasionally receive verification applications, but they were basically people who were bored and randomly entered their communication numbers to send out applications. She did not think that anyone would leak her communication number. Therefore, when Long Ting finally heard the message notification, she was a little expectant. However, after seeing the result, she was immediately disappointed. Without even looking at it, she deleted the message and opened her father's message. Say it when you're done. Meet someone. Hongmeng Supreme? Be polite? Long Ting was shocked by her father's message and hurriedly connected to her father's communication. It was only then that Long Xing told Long Ting the reason for this hurried departure. At the same time, he also said that the patriarch had invited the patriarch's best friend, an expert from the Grand Miss Supremacy realm, and that he was already in the aircraft. Long Yi was still immersed in consolidating his realm, so Long Ting came out a little excited to see if the legendary expert from the Grand Miss Supremacy realm, who was on par with her ancestor, had 3 heads and 6 arms or something. However, to her great disappointment, the old man did not look like a supreme expert from Hongmeng at all. Instead, he looked like an old swindler who had tricked her into joining the Death Door. If her father had not specifically emphasized that she should pay attention to her manners, if she had not known that the other party would not use his realm to fool people, and if she had not known that he had entered their aircraft in the chaotic space, Long Ting might have scoffed at this old man who was so good at fooling people. Fortunately, she had seen the big picture, and used the reason of wanting to attack the holy sanctum as an excuse to politely reject the old man. She promised that she would consider the door of demise after the holy sanctum was hopeless, and only then was she able to shake off the old man's pestering. Long Xing and Lu Yun's faces darkened. However, the two of them finally understood what it meant to be a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. At the same time, they were deeply proud of their daughter because they could see that this supreme expert from Hongmeng, who was on the same level as their ancestor, was very optimistic about their daughter. Otherwise, why would the Grand Elder of the Death Door, which was ranked 6th on Vast Universe Planet, be so eloquent, try his best, and promise so many conditions to let their daughter join? On the 15th day, Long Yi finally consolidated his realm. He immediately logged into the second world. Similarly, Long Yi also received a message from his father immediately. Moreover, there was also an unfamiliar verification application without any information. Long Yi did not pay much attention to it, and did not delete it. Instead, he clicked on his father's message first. Then, like Long Ting, he paid a visit to the supreme expert from Hongmeng, Xie Sun. What was different from Long Ting was that Long Yi was very respectful and excitedly agreed to join the Door of Demise and become Xie Sun's personal disciple. On the spot, Long Yi received Xie Sun's assessment, guidance, and teachings of the Door of Demise. The two of them stayed together for a full 5 days before Long Yi excitedly entered his own independent space. At this time, when he re-entered the second world, he found that he had received another unfamiliar verification application. Again, there was no information and the number was different. Strange, why is there another one? Could it be that my luck has come too? Long Yi, who was in a good mood, joked about himself. It had to be said that with his younger sister in front of him, Long Yi's taste was so picky that it made all the female disciples in Xiantian City blush with shame. Up until now, not a single woman had been able to move his heart. It was not uncommon for young people to send out verification applications randomly, but the probability of receiving 2 in a row within a few days was too low. That was why Long Yi thought so. Looking at this number, it doesn't seem to be from the Asianing planet. Let's take a look. Maybe my luck has come. My sister already has someone she likes. As her brother, I can't fall too far behind. Confirmed. Check the message. Vast Universe Planet, Black Rock City, Do Naiwan? This is a man. Boring. Good thing he's not in the second world. Delete. Long Yi deleted the message in disappointment and accepted the second one. Vast Universe Planet, Black Rock City, Jiaming Zai? Or a man or Black Rock City. They must know each other and are having fun together. Delete. Long Yi was a little depressed and deleted the message without hesitation. It was not easy for him to have some fun, and it turned out to be 2 men. This was too much of a blow. At least a woman came. Beep beep beep. At this time, Long Yi received a communication request from Long Ting. Brother, why did you agree to that old man? Sister, don't say that. That's my master. I think he's an old swindler. Brother, with your talent, you might be able to enter the Divine Temple. Sister, first of all, the Divine Temple is not as simple as you think. Of course, it might not be difficult for you. Second, I know my own limits. Although there's hope, it's not safe. I'm not you. If I burn my boats, it might not be worth it. How can it not be worth it? At most, I'll just enter the Death Door sect. Moreover, the other top sects have many choices. This, sister, the conditions that Master told me, if I agree now and if I agree later, it's completely different. It's very important to choose. I might as well have a safer option. Moreover, if I enter the Death Door sect, it's not like I don't have a chance to enter the Divine Temple. Although it's a little difficult, the cultivation environment is also better, right? Alright. Then I'll go down. Brother, if there's news about Chunhao, just ask father to inform me. I received 2 messages, both of which are verification messages. I got excited for nothing. I'm so angry. Ah, you received 2 messages too? Long Yi knew why his sister did not stay in the second world, but when he heard his sister say that she received 2 verification messages, he was slightly surprised and could not help but ask. You received it too? 2 messages too? Long Ting asked in surprise when she heard Long Yi's words. Obviously, both of them knew that the probability of receiving 2 verification messages in such a short period of time was relatively small. Usually, it was difficult to receive 1 in a year or so, let alone 2 in a few days. Yes. Both of us are men. Cough cough. Could it be that someone leaked our contact number? Both of us received 2 messages. 2 messages for you. What's your communication number? What's their name? Their contact numbers are asterisk 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 and asterisk 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 asterisk. I don't know what their names are. I just deleted them. Did you pass the verification? Cough cough. Their contact numbers are different, so it should be a coincidence. Long Yi said awkwardly. Brother, it seems like you want to find a cultivation partner too. No, I just passed the verification. Both of their names are obviously male. Haha. Brother, you can't tell if someone is male or female just by looking at their name. What are their names? Tell me, I'll help you analyze. Stop joking. Tell me, maybe they really are female. Long Ting finally caught her brother thinking about finding a cultivation partner. She was naturally happy for her brother because she deeply felt the beauty of love. One is called Do Naiwen, the other is called Jiamingzai. How could they be female? I deleted them both. Just kidding, fake names. The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener understood. When Long Yi said it, he didn't think anything, but when Long Ting heard it, it completely changed. At this time, Long Yi heard Long Ting's repeated voice and suddenly realized the problem. Sister, check the contact information you received. Long Ting also realized something. She immediately entered the contact number that she didn't care about, but it was imprinted in her mind. Immediately, she saw the information. Vast Universe Star, Black Rock City, Dotawan. Vast Universe Star, Black Rock City, Jiaminjia. Both Black Rock City. Just kidding, fake names. This. Could it be? It's him. Aya. Long Ting screamed and immediately applied for verification. At the same time she urged, Brother, quickly give me the 2 contact numbers. Okay. Although the 2 of them were surprised and felt that it was impossible, who else could it be other than Chunhao to send a message to them specifically? And it was obvious that they had obtained fake identities? Among the people they knew, no one would be so bored as to make 4 fake identities to tease the 2 of them. Moreover, perhaps only Chunhao would be so careful. No response. I don't have any response either. Oh no. Could he have used another number? Why isn't he here? Brother. Ahem, sister, don't worry. Brother Chen might be in the middle of training. He can't be in the second world all the time. Let's wait a little longer. But, how did he get to Vast Universe Star so quickly? Could it be that the ability of his micro-aircraft has improved again? Chapter 633. Vast Universe Star. In the best Black Rock restaurant in Black Rock City. In the most expensive room that ordinary people could stay in, the cultivation room. Chunhao sat cross-legged, and the aura around him was faintly discernible and leisurely. Whether it was his body or his spirit, he was obviously in a wonderful state of relaxation. His whole person seemed to be integrated into the air, and could be blown away by the wind at any time. This was the state of I am heaven and earth are me, when one's spirit and body were completely compatible with one's realm. It was the state of I am heaven and earth are me, that ordinary people dreamed of but could not achieve. In fact, only when one's comprehension of the law of heaven, body realm, soul realm, state of mind, and will reach the limit of one's realm could one be in this state. Those who could achieve this state, as long as they were willing, could trigger the divine punishment at any time and anywhere and step into the next realm. But looking at the whole world of cultivation, no one would imprison their realm for the state of I am heaven and earth are me. First, before they could achieve this state, they already had the absolute strength to trigger the divine punishment. Second, by imprisoning oneself for many years, only 1 in 10,000 could achieve the conditions to achieve this state. Therefore, no one would waste time doing something that was basically futile. But Chen Hao did it. In the chaotic space, his comprehension of the law of heaven, body realm, soul realm, state of mind, and will had all reached the limit of the human celestial stage. And he, who wanted to pursue his own path to perfection, was not in a hurry to trigger the divine punishment. Instead, he wanted to hone his unfinished combat skills. It was in this situation that Chen Hao imperceptibly entered this state. Amazing! This was Chen Hao's strongest feeling for this state. At that moment, he was clearly in the second world. There was clearly a tenfold difference in the laws of time between the second world and the real world. However, Chen Hao felt that the time in the real world had suddenly changed from a waterfall to a gentle stream. It flowed slowly and merged with the long river of time in the second world. Chen Hao could no longer feel any difference in time. The minds of the two worlds had completely merged into one. This feeling could only be described with the word amazing. The benefits brought by this feeling were absolutely inconceivable. This was because the combination of reality and the second world allowed Chen Hao's comprehension in the second world to be synchronized with his real body. It also allowed Chen Hao to integrate all of his consciousness into the second world, even though it was only a wisp. Simulated, the cultivator at the medium stage of the human celestial stage ranked 3034 in the arena of the Black Rock City. Chi. World 2, Vast Universe Star Black Rock City. After fighting 10 matches in the arena, Chen Hao directly went to the elementary training field and reported the information of the target he wanted to simulate. During these 10 days, which was equivalent to over 100 days in the second world, Chen Hao went back and forth between the arena and the training field. 10 battles a day in the arena was far from enough to satisfy his needs. Only by spending an exorbitant amount of money to go to the training field would he be able to fight endlessly. Originally, he didn't need to do this. This was because after arriving at Vast Universe Stars Black Rock City, he had easily found a place to buy a spirit helmet in the black market. This was something that he hadn't expected. These spirit helmets were actually second-hand goods, which were obtained from the cultivators who had been killed. Moreover, through the price, Chen Hao understood that there must be a lot of cultivators who specialized in hunting other cultivators and selling spirit helmets for a living. Although Chen Hao disdained this kind of behavior, he had to admit that it was convenient for him. He bought 100 of them in one go. He only needed to change into a spirit helmet and enter the second world. He could fight 1,000 battles a day, which was basically enough. However, after Chen Hao entered the state of I am heaven and earth are me, he didn't dare to change the helmet easily. He was very clear that this state was like the state of epiphany and the state of madness. It was something that could only be encountered and not sought. Once he exited, it would be impossible to enter this state again. Chi, a young cultivator, after Chen Hao sent out his request, directly appeared in front of Chen Hao. His aura and fighting spirit were extremely strong. He didn't give Chen Hao any time to think and directly attacked. Chen Hao didn't know who his opponent was. He only knew that he was a cultivator at the intermediate stage of the immortal stage in Vast Universe Stars Black Rock City. He also knew that this would not be an easy battle. Boom. Boom boom. One was a simulation, so it was impossible for there to be any nonsense. The other didn't have time for nonsense and knew that any nonsense would be meaningless. The two of them directly engaged in a fierce battle. In the second world, Vast Universe Stars Black Rock City. After more than 100 days, Chen Hao had a deep understanding of the strength of vast universe stars cultivators. Whether it was the arena or the simulation field, although Chen Hao still maintained a perfect record, he understood that if he was really at the intermediate stage of the immortal stage, he wouldn't be able to achieve a perfect victory. At least, as the ranking of the masters he challenged became higher and higher, he wouldn't be able to maintain it until the end. And this was just an insignificant small city on vast universe star. What if it was the top city on vast universe star? Boom. Boom. 3 minutes later, the fierce battle ended. Phew. 2,000 immortal core crystals. Just 3 fucking minutes. Chen Hao felt that the wounds on his body were instantly healed after the battle, and he was a little depressed. This kind of battle was fierce and exciting, and it had indeed benefited Chen Hao a lot. But Chen Hao preferred the arena. This was because the simulated masters were in their perfect and strongest state. But the fatal flaw was that they lacked the flexibility and the instantaneous perception of the myriad changes in battle, as well as the most important process of preparation. For Chen Hao, who wanted to hone his combat skills and find his own Tao, this was far less intuitive and easier to comprehend than fighting with a living person. Chen Hao didn't immediately simulate the next one. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and digested this short 3-minute battle. After a full quarter of an hour, Chen Hao began to simulate the 3033rd cultivator again. 20 hours later, Chen Hao completed the challenge of 50 cultivators. Phew. It's time to go to the arena. I haven't contacted Long Yi and Long Ting with this number. When Chen Hao thought of this, he sent out 2 more verification requests. When he thought of Long Ting, Chen Hao's heart palpitated a little even though he was in the second world. Chen Hao naturally knew this feeling. It was a sign that the drug was about to take effect. However, Chen Hao didn't deliberately stop thinking about it and let everything happen naturally. This was because he knew that when the drug took effect, it was also the time for him to truly hone himself. That was what Long Ting had sacrificed for him, and he had already accepted it. Naturally, he couldn't let down a girl who was ready to sacrifice for him and whom he liked. He had sent 2 fake spiritual helmets to each of Long Ting and Long Yi. When he sent out the verification request, he didn't leave any comments. This was also why Chen Hao was careful. After all, if the Asianing Star Alliance could monitor him, they could also monitor Long Ting and Long Yi. Now he had a fake identity, but Long Yi and Long Ting weren't. If he left a trace in the message, he wouldn't be safe. Unfortunately, the 2 of them didn't reply to his 4 verification requests. He didn't know if they ignored him or if they weren't online. He couldn't change the helmets now and didn't know the result. Both of them should be preparing to trigger divine punishment. My number probably won't change for a long time. I'll send them a message first. When Chen Hao thought of this, he immediately searched for Long Ting and Long Yi's number and sent a message. Beep. 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 Chen Hao was slightly surprised. He didn't expect to receive a reply at this time. He realized that Long Yi had passed the verification instantly and sent a communication request directly. Swoosh. When Chen Hao accepted the call, Long Yi's image appeared in his mind. Phew. Brother Chen, it's really you. Wait a minute, I'll inform my sister. She misses you so much that she doesn't dare to log into the second world. It's too long. It's torture. Ahem. Chen Hao coughed awkwardly and said, Brother Long, don't send a message. Just send a current message. I have to cultivate with all my strength. I don't want to be discovered by them. I have to hide. I understand. Don't worry, Long Yi said. Sending a message would leave a trace, but current messages couldn't be monitored in the second world. That required too much authority. Even the controller of the Asianing Star didn't have that authority. As Long Yi spoke, he connected to his father's call. He didn't tell his father the reason. He only told his father that his sister had to log into the second world because he had something to do. Brother Chen, are you in Wuyan City on the vast universe star? Yes, I was going to change places. However, something good happened, and I can't leave for the time being. I'll stay here for a while. How are you and Sister Ting? Are you preparing to trigger divine punishment? We've stepped into the Earth's celestial stage. Now my sister and I are on our way to the vast universe star. We'll arrive in about 3 months. Then my sister and I will look for you. Don't. I'll definitely not be here in 3 months. Moreover, if they find out that I'm no longer in your family, I'm afraid they'll target the two of you directly to find me. So it's better that we don't meet for the time being, Chen Hao said. This, Brother Chen, you don't have to be so afraid of them, do you? Even on the Asianing star, they wouldn't dare to be so brazen, let alone the vast universe star. I'm not afraid. It's just that I don't have time to tangle with them. I need to cultivate in peace. Otherwise, why would I be afraid of them? Oh, all right then. Tell your sister. I'll be bothering you, haha. Long Yi said and cut off the call. At the same time, a beeping sound rang in Chen Hao's mind. Looking at that familiar number, Chen Hao's heart suddenly throbbed violently, causing Chen Hao to helplessly shake his head, and immediately he directly connected the call. Chapter 634. Hee. The familiar heartless laughter that caused Chen Hao's balls to throb and hurt blossomed from Long Ting's delicate and beautiful face. Her eyes stared straight at Chen Hao. Even though she intentionally used this laughter to conceal it, there were too many things contained within it, and it was too heavy to the point that it was impossible to conceal them. Chen Hao stared at Long Ting. Once again he had a feeling of being easily touched and rippling. Perhaps it was Long Ting's beautiful face that was as bright as a flower. Perhaps it was Long Ting's exquisite and alluring body. Perhaps it was Long Ting's fiery passion and initiative. Perhaps it was Long Ting's unwavering sacrifice. Perhaps it was also the effect of the pill. At this moment, no matter what, when he saw Long Ting again, Chen Hao clearly felt that he was truly attracted to the girl in front of him. Especially when he thought of Long Ting's expression and words when she gave him the 6 pills that did not sleep or rest. It made Chen Hao even more moved. At the same time, it also made Chen Hao clear that this was definitely not the effect of the pill. Previously, during the preliminary test in the second world, what was the illusion that made Chen Hao almost unable to extricate himself? It was his feelings. This was his fatal weakness. It was also his only weakness that he did not dare to face casually. At that time, he had entered an illusion that he could not escape. It was an illusion that he would have to face in the future. He knew that it would be his biggest inner demon. He had realized it before, but that test had sounded the alarm for him in advance. Therefore, he had always been searching for spiritual enlightenment and emotional detachment. He also tried his best to exclude all the factors that could easily trigger his inner demon. Just like when he met Long Ting and everything that happened between him and Long Ting, he thought that he had done very well. However, only now did he realize that the existence of spiritual sustenance or excuse that he had always given her was not valid at all. That was drugging. From the first time Long Ting drugged him to the last time he swallowed the first real pill, it was indeed Long Ting who took the initiative. However, he had always been clear-headed. If he asked himself honestly, even if Long Ting had not drugged him for the first time, could he not take Long Ting seriously? He could not. Otherwise, when he first met Long Ting, he decided to refine a genetic analyzer just because Long Ting's appearance was shockingly similar to a perfect female corpse on Earth. The feeling of existence in his subconscious mind was the real reason. Now that he saw Long Ting again, even though it was just an image, Chen Hao truly understood himself. When did you trigger the heavenly punishment? Chen Hao was the first to speak, breaking the ambiguous gaze. 20 days ago. We left the Ya'ing planet on the 3rd day after the divine punishment. I was just saying that I might arrive earlier than you after the divine punishment. How come you've arrived on the vast universe planet so early? Naturally, it's because the aircraft is faster. You rushed here in such a hurry. Could it be that you can't bear the effects of the medicine, and are in a hurry to see me? Chen Hao said with a slight smile. That's right. Brother, how are you having a fit? I've already acted up once. Ha, I really miss you. Ahem. We can't see each other for the time being. Just bear with it. A flustered heart can't eat hot tofu. Chen Hao was very uncomfortable with Long Ting's unreserved answer. At least none of Chen Shui's girls were so bold and hot. I know. It won't affect you. We'll just see each other in the secondary world. I'm afraid of seeing you. If I can't bear it, we'll be in big trouble. Once the rice is cooked, we'll lose a lot. Haha. After my brother and I register our identities on the vast universe planet, we'll be able to find you in the secondary world. Well, we'll talk about it when the time comes. If I'm not online, don't message me. Oh. Brother told me that you've encountered something good and can't leave Black Rock City for the time being. What good thing is it? The state of I am heaven and earth are me. Ah, then aren't you at the limit of all aspects? You can trigger the heavenly punishment. Not yet. I have to complete at least 10,000 battles and completely merge with my real body before I can trigger the heavenly punishment. It should take some time, Chen Hao said. The two of them chatted for a while. Long Ting told Chen Hao about the possible actions of the Guo family. The Supreme of Hongmeng invited by the Long family, Long Yi's promise to join the Death Door sect and become the direct disciple of the Supreme of Hongmeng, Xia Sun, and her plan to enter the sanctum. After Chen Hao told her about his temporary plans, the two of them cut off the connection. A month later in the real world, Chen Hao's state of, I am heaven and earth are me finally disappeared. After more than a year in the second world, Chen Hao finally felt that he had reached the limit of the medium stage of the human celestial stage. After notifying Long Ting and Long Yi, he began his first real experience in the vast universe star. In the third month, Chen Hao received news that Long Ting and Long Yi had arrived at the vast universe star. The Guo family's operation had failed, and they had suffered heavy losses. The Daoyuo Jinxian's Guo family head, Guo Dongshan, was ambushed by the Long family head, Long Yuan. His physical body was killed, and his primordial spirit escaped. The Guo family had a total of 19 heavenly celestial stage experts who participated in the operation. 4 of them were killed by Long Yuan, and the Long family's 25 direct descendants and more than 30 direct descendants. The rest of them escaped with their primordial spirits. The Long family was unscathed. The Long family's ferocity was vividly displayed. The Guo family, who had victory in their hands, was scared out of their wits. No matter what, they did not expect that the Guo family had set up a trap for them, and they had jumped right in. What they did not expect was that the reason why the Long family did not suffer any casualties was that they were secretly protected by the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm's experts. Similarly, the Long family did not expect this counterattack to go so smoothly. The reason was that Yan Baitian, the Supreme of Hongmeng, did not come, and the Guo family's preparations were obviously insufficient. According to the patriarch of the Long family's estimation, Yan Baitian would appear no matter what. After all, Guo Nu was his direct disciple and Guo Nu's inheritance was his doing. Given Long Ting's importance, how could he not come? However, not only did Yan Baitian not come, but the Guo family also did not have enough manpower. Obviously, the Guo family had underestimated the Long family and underestimated them. Instead, they had become the real idiot. In the blink of an eye, a year and a half had passed of the promised 10 years. During this year and a half, Chen Hao had disappeared without a trace. Although the people of the Happy Valley, the demonic ant planet, and the Wuji planet were all looking for Chen Hao, they did not obtain any news about Chen Hao. Even the high-level members of the Asianing Planet Alliance used their authority to investigate Chen Hao's secondary world, but they did not find any information about him. This also let everyone know that Chen Hao had left the Asianing planet, and that he was no longer using the soul helmet issued by the Asianing planet. Some people thought that Chen Hao might have concealed his identity, and would never appear in the cultivation world with his real identity. However, many cultivators on the Wuji planet who had come into contact with Chen Hao believed that Chen Hao would definitely return in 10 years. Similarly, during this year and a half, no one from the Long family appeared on the Asianing planet again. However, everyone received news that Long Yi of the Long family had become the personal disciple of a Grand Elder of the Lifeless sect, which was ranked 6th on the vast universe planet. He had also made a name for himself in the Lifeless sect. Long Ting, who had once been the #1 beauty and the #1 witch on the Asianing planet, had shocked everyone. They had just received news that Long Ting had defeated tens of millions of people in the Holy Temple's assessment and become a disciple of the Holy Temple. However, at the same time, there was another piece of news that was not inferior to Long Ting's. A year and a half ago, Bailey Ningbing of the Wuji planet, who had become a disciple of the everlasting sect, had once again displayed amazing talent and become a disciple of the Holy Temple. In a short time, Bailey Ningbing and Long Ting had become the pride of the entire Asianing planet. At the same time, they had also become the focus of discussion among the cultivators on the Asianing planet. Behind this focus, people couldn't help but mention Chen Hao, who had once been famous in the vast universe galaxy, but had been silent for a year and a half without any news. The conflict between Bailey Ningbing and Chen Hao had also been spread by the talkative people of the Wuji planet. The ambiguous relationship between Long Ting and Chen Hao was no secret in the Xiantian city of the Asianing planet. This had also given rise to many different versions of gossip about the love and hatred between Chen Hao and the two women. It had to be said that there was no smoke without fire. The wisdom of the masses was definitely quite impressive. Although it wasn't true, after removing the fake Xiyuan Jing, it wasn't far from the truth. Chi vast universe planet, Panhua City, the Alliance's heavenly punishment square. Today, a young man who was going to trigger heavenly punishment was welcomed. This young man didn't reveal his true identity, and the Alliance didn't check his true identity, because he had a token from the Lifeless sect, a top sect on vast universe planet. This led the staff of the Panhua City Alliance to conclude that this was a super genius disciple who had come out to gain experience. This was because this young man, who was only at the human immortal stage, exuded an aura that was shocking and unbelievable. Based on this aura alone, the Alliance concluded that this young man was definitely one of the top geniuses on vast universe planet. This wasn't something that Panhua City could have. However, this young man chose to trigger heavenly punishment here. To Panhua City, this was definitely a grand occasion. Therefore, although time was tight, the staff of the Alliance still spread the news as soon as possible. The content was simple. A top genius disciple of vast universe planet, human immortal stage, has triggered heavenly punishment. Hurry up and attend the ceremony. Numerous figures quickly appeared. Countless young disciples and cultivators of Panhua City were rushing over. Not for anything else, but for a top genius of vast universe planet. That was enough. To be called a top genius of vast universe planet by the Alliance, he was definitely one of the top existences in Panhua City. Chi. What a strong fluctuation of heaven and earth. Amazing! Is this aura really something that a human immortal stage cultivator can have? Some of the cultivators who rushed over saw that the young man sitting in the middle of the square had already activated his aura. The heavens and earth had already begun to shake. Obviously, he had no intention of letting everyone attend the ceremony. He didn't plan on waiting for everyone to arrive. Chapter 635. The Heaven Punishment Square can increase the power of the Heaven Punishment by 6 times. With my current aura, the Heaven Punishment I trigger will be more powerful than the Heaven Punishment triggered by a genius at the peak of the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage. 6 times. If I take it head-on, it will definitely cause a sensation. However, I can't care too much about that. Increasing my strength is the most important thing. I can't waste the opportunity to improve myself just to hide my strength. Chen Hao felt helpless when he sensed more and more cultivators. Originally, he had planned to trigger the Heaven Punishment in the wilderness. However, when Long Ting and Long Yi knew that he was going to trigger the Heaven Punishment Square, they suggested that he go to the Heaven Punishment Square of the Alliance. That was because the Heaven Punishment Square could allow cultivators to gain the most benefits from the Heaven Punishment. Of course, the prerequisite was that the cultivator was powerful enough. Chen Hao was undoubtedly suitable. The Heaven Punishment of any stage had to be withstood by the cultivator alone, and couldn't be protected. However, it could increase the power of the Heaven Punishment. This didn't happen on the Wuji star. Firstly, the Wuji star didn't have the ability and capital to do this. Secondly, it was rare for the cultivators on the Wuji star to be able to withstand the Heaven Punishment, let alone increase the power of the Heaven Punishment. However, the Heaven Punishment Square of any city in the Alliance on the 36 main stars of the vast universe galaxy had this function, and it could increase the power of the Heaven Punishment by 6 times. This was definitely a rare opportunity for a genius cultivator with abnormal talent. After all, many real geniuses could withstand the heaven punishment easily, and increase the power of the heaven punishment by several times. Naturally, they could refine their body, soul, will, and comprehension of the law of heaven more thoroughly. The effect would be better, and the improvement would be greater. Boom. Thinking of this, Chen Hao didn't hesitate anymore. He suddenly released his strongest aura violently. In the past 1.5 years, Chen Hao hadn't stopped practicing in the arena of the second world, the cultivation field, and the real world. Finally, he had refined his combat skills and comprehension to the limit. The feeling of being at the peak, Chen Hao could cause the heaven and earth to shake by activating his essence, qi, and spirit. If he wasn't vigilant at all times, he would have triggered the heaven punishment directly. This was definitely the most perfect peak state. In fact, the shocking fluctuation of the heaven and earth just now was just the most natural release of Chen Hao's aura, when he stopped suppressing it. He hadn't triggered it deliberately. Qi. At this moment, as Chen Hao violently released his aura, his abundant essence, energy, and spirit seemed to have materialized. They shockingly emitted a sparkling and translucent light that soared into the sky and pierced through the firmament. Rumble. Rumble. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged, and the world changed color. The energy of the world instantly set off great waves, like a river bursting a dam or a mountain torrent erupting. It surged, and it spread out in all directions at an astonishing speed. Oh my God. How is this possible? How can he be so strong? At that moment, countless people cried out in alarm. Even a heavenly immortal realm master, who had come to take a look, and was called a peak genius of vast universe star by the Alliance, was horrified. His eyes widened, not daring to believe what he was seeing or feeling. What kind of feeling was that? It was definitely much more terrifying than the aura of heaven's punishment that was triggered when a cultivator at the peak of the earth's celestial stage advanced to the heaven celestial stage. Phew. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. To be so strong. It's much stronger than we expected. This is definitely the top genius disciple of the Death Door sect, right? To be able to trigger such a terrifying heavenly punishment. I'm sure this young man is definitely one of the top 100 geniuses in the heavenly immortal realm of vast universe star. Yes, who could it be? No matter who it is, I'm sure his identity is not as simple as that of the Death Door sect. If I'm not wrong, he should be one of the disciples of the Divine Temple. The staff of the Heavenly Punishment Square of the Alliance were discussing in shock. Such a strong fluctuation. The power of the heavenly punishment alone could kill a master at the peak of the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage. And he's definitely a genius. But he applied for a limit of 6 times amplification. Can he really bear it? This is not something we can control. Don't think too much, just do as he asked. Otherwise, it'll be bad if he blames us. Besides, if he can't bear it, he'll definitely inform us. Ha, brother, you've been completely defeated by him. Humph. What are you talking about? Your aura was not as strong as his at that time, right? I'm a little woman. You're a man. How can you compare with me? Brother, after he passes the heavenly punishment, I want to see him. This sister, I advise you not to. Brother Chen didn't let us come. He must have his reasons. There are only 8 years left. We can't affect his state of mind. Oh, okay. In a corner 10,000 miles away from the square, 2 cultivators in black robes and bamboo hats with completely changed auras sensed the terrifying fluctuations between heaven and earth. Their eyes shone as they stared at the vague figures 10,000 miles away, communicating with each other through voice transmission. These were Long Yi and Long Ting, who had secretly rushed over despite their busy schedule. After not seeing each other for more than a year, Long Ting and Long Yi's auras were countless times stronger than before. Although they were still at the early stage of the Earth's celestial stage, today was different. They had stepped into vast universe star and faced many top geniuses in fierce competition, forcing them to cultivate crazily. Even Long Ting, who had a special cultivation method, had changed from her previous laziness, as if she had become a different person. Otherwise, even she would not have been able to pass the assessment of the Divine Temple in just over a year, and step into the true pinnacle of the human race. Well, after he passes the heavenly punishment, we'll leave directly. I don't want to be punished by Master. You sneaked out as soon as you entered the divine temple. You can't stay for long. Got it. It's him. It's really him. He's so strong. How can he be so strong? What Long Ting and Long Yi did not know was that in another corner of the heavenly punishment square, a figure who had also changed her appearance and concealed her true body was staring at Chen Hao, who was at the center of the square, with an extremely crazy expression. She had followed Long Ting, who had no experience or common sense. They had followed her all the way from the divine temple. She was Long Ting's classmate in the divine temple. According to Earth saying, they were classmates of the same grade. This was really a coincidence. Both of them were from the Ying planet, and were the subject of heated discussion on the Ying planet. Both of them were related to Chen Hao, who had been silent for a year and a half. They had passed the assessment of the divine temple at the same time, entered the divine temple at the same time, and were assigned to the same hall in the divine temple's 8 halls. This person was none other than Bailey Ningbing, who hated Chen Hao to the core. When the two entered the sacred hall and met, and when they found out who the other was, they immediately became mortal enemies. Although they did not fight, everyone knew that once the opportunity arose, the two of them would definitely clash and decide who was the better one. Although Long Ting had left the Ying planet, she had still heard about the rumors. Of course, she had heard it from her brother. How could she not know about the conflict between Bailey Ningbing and Chen Hao? Although it was just a rumor, there was no smoke without fire. At least, it was a fact that Chen Hao had been expelled from the Wuxia planet. As for Bailey Ningbing, she was even more direct. She had long hated Long Ting to the core, because Chen Hao had rejected her and accepted Long Ting. This was the fuse that truly infuriated her. She had been looking for an opportunity to pay attention to Long Ting's every move, because Chen Hao had last disappeared in the Long family. She believed that Long Ting, who had an ambiguous relationship with Chen Hao, would definitely know where Chen Hao was. With Chen Hao's personality, there was no reason for him to hide his identity and never appear again. The only possibility was that Chen Hao had changed his identity and was crazily training alone. Last night, when she saw Long Ting step out of the divine temple, she habitually followed, and then this scene happened. Endure. 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 Now is not the time, not the time. I must endure. Bailey Ningbing's aura surged, and her hatred overflowed. She wanted nothing more than to ravage Chen Hao to death, to make him kneel and beg for mercy, to cry and shout about his regret. The hatred he had for her almost drove her crazy. But at this moment, she could only endure. Especially the terrifying aura of Chen Hao's heavenly punishment. It made her hate him even more. She had always been confident that one day, she would be able to completely surpass Chen Hao. Although she didn't want to admit it, she had to admit that the heavenly punishment that Chen Hao had attracted was definitely much stronger than the one she had attracted a year ago when she had become a disciple of the Eternal Life sect. Gotcha! The first extremely terrifying heavenly punishment finally descended from the sky amidst the crowd's anticipation. It was also at this moment that the mysterious runes in the heavenly punishment square suddenly spread out layer by layer. Amidst the crowd's exclamations, they suddenly transformed into 6 layers of light waves. 6 times magnification. Rumble. The proud and upright figure that was as sharp as a sword, forcibly withstood the first lightning that fell from the 9 heavens, containing endless pressure and terrifying energy. Swish. 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 At this moment, the endless heavenly way and the overwhelming pressure pressed down. All the cultivators within tens of thousands of miles, including all the powerhouses at the heaven celestial stage, had no time to be surprised at this moment. They closed their eyes one after another to grasp the strong heavenly way, and resist the pressure that was directed to the depths of their hearts at the same time. However, some young geniuses at the human celestial stage, who had overestimated their strength, spat out blood violently, and stepped back with pale faces. They were extremely frightened. This was just a ceremony, and it was so horrible from tens of thousands of miles away. How horrible would the power and pressure that Chen Hao, who was at the same cultivation stage as himself, who was bearing the full force of the heavenly punishment, bear? Swish. 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 Is this all you've got? No one knew that Chen Hao, who was resisting the heavenly punishment, was looking at the void disdainfully and arrogantly at this moment. Since it's meaningless, there's no need to continue. Break. Clang. Swish. Rumble. Rumble. A sword breaks the sky. Chapter 636. The dazzling sword light contained an extremely sharp sword intent. It pierced through the clouds, tore through space and broke through the first level of punishment. It had to be said that the power displayed by Chen Hao's slash was incredibly fierce. The sword will, energy and profundity of the ultimate skill contained within it had all reached a rather high level. However, what it brought to the crowd was not shock, but relief. Yes, it was a sigh of relief. No matter who it was, when they saw an existence that was so powerful that it was shocking, inconceivable, and unbelievable, they would be jealous and hate the heavens for being unfair in the depths of their hearts. They were all humans, so why was there such a huge gap between them? And now, Chen Hao didn't take the punishment head-on. Instead, he chose to break through the clouds. From their point of view, Chen Hao couldn't take the punishment, and was forced to break through the clouds. Without a doubt, when they saw this, they naturally thought that Chen Hao wasn't as strong as they thought. Brother Hao, why couldn't he take it? That's not right. Strange. Long Ting and Long Yi, who knew Chen Hao very well, frowned when they saw this. Chen Hao took the punishment head-on, and all of them were magnified 6 times. To the two of them, it wasn't difficult at all. They were clearly aware of how terrifying Chen Hao's strength was. His fleshly body, soul, and will were all abnormal to the point of causing one's hair to stand on end. But now, why was he unable to withstand the first level of heavenly punishment? The two of them didn't understand and couldn't figure out what was going on. Similarly, Bailey Ningbing frowned. However, her eyes flashed with disdain. It had to be said that she knew that Chen Hao was strong, but she didn't know how strong Chen Hao was. Chen Hao was able to break through the tribulation cloud with the first strike of the 6-fold heavenly punishment. Although it was a little unexpected, it was understandable. From his point of view, it was obvious that Chen Hao was too confident and let the alliance magnify the punishment 6 times, but he couldn't take it. This made him sigh in relief and gloat. The staff of the alliance's heavenly punishment plaza, as well as all the spectating cultivators, believed that Chen Hao would definitely request the alliance to reduce the size of the heavenly punishment. However, what they didn't understand was that Chen Hao, who was standing proudly, didn't issue any orders even as the second and even more terrifying tribulation cloud gradually formed. Until the moment it rumbled and descended, he didn't even give any orders. Instead, he raised his head to look at the sky without a trace of fear. He didn't even condense any ultimate technique to attack. Crack. Rumble. Rumble chi. What's going on? At this moment, the same question appeared in the minds of Chen Hao and everyone else's mind. The only difference was that the question was different. What everyone couldn't understand was why Chen Hao, who had to rely on his divine ability to break through the first heavenly punishment, was now facing the second heavenly punishment that was even more terrifying than the first heavenly punishment. This didn't make sense. To be more precise, if one couldn't even withstand the first strike, then the second strike would result in instant death. But it didn't seem like they imagined. On the other hand, Chen Hao was puzzled. Since when did he become so powerful? The punishment was supposed to be terrifying and had an excellent tempering effect on his body. How could it have no effect on his soul, willpower, and state of mind? Chen Hao didn't even feel the slightest bit of challenge when it came to his physical body. This was illogical. At the very least, Chen Hao was confused. This was a heavenly punishment. A heavenly punishment triggered by a cultivator's heaven-defying actions. How could it be ineffective? But that was the truth. Thigh. Break. Chi. Rumble. Rumble. The brilliant sword light appeared again. Unlike the previous time, Chen Hao's sword light was weakened. He had to wave his sword 100 times to break through the second level of punishment. Chen Hao didn't understand. Everyone present, including Long Ting and Long Yi, didn't understand what was going on with Chen Hao. If he couldn't take the first level of punishment, the second level of punishment would definitely be a direct attack. There was no reason for him to take it head-on. However, Chen Hao didn't only choose that, but he was also fine. Was he really strong? If he was really strong, he could continue to take it head-on. However, Chen Hao broke through the punishment cloud again. It was the same for the first two levels. The third, the fourth. As the heavenly punishment of the tribulation clouds became stronger and stronger, Chen Hao continued to do the same. After enduring for a while, he would activate his sword light and perform his ultimate techniques continuously, destroying the tribulation clouds in one go. The fifth, sixth, until the end of the ninth level of punishment, he didn't waste too much time, and maintained a way that puzzled everyone. Damn! Every single person, every time they passed the heavenly punishment and received the energy of the tribulation clouds, whether it was their physical body, soul, mental state, willpower, or comprehension of the heavenly Tao laws, they would all experience a qualitative improvement. Moreover, their spirit would be incomparably comfortable, and they would feel the excitement of being reborn. But this time, Chen Hao almost cursed it out loud. Depressing, that was really depressing. The barrier between the peak of the later stage of the human celestial stage and the earth celestial stage collapsed instantly when the heaven's punishment ended. Chen Hao had successfully stepped into the earth celestial stage. He could clearly feel that his strength had improved tremendously, but he was still unhappy, very unhappy, because he had only improved his true core stage. Other than that, he did not feel anything at all. The divine punishment just now was like a battle that did not hurt him at all. It was completely meaningless. Chi-Chi. Chen Hao directly turned into a stream of light and left gloomily without any pause. At this moment, the practitioners in the whole heaven punishment square began to discuss in a buzz. They were all confused and didn't understand why it was like this. It could be said that 99.9% of the people present were like Chen Hao. They didn't understand what was going on. Even the staff in the center of the alliance didn't understand. They had seen countless people trigger the punishment of heaven, but they had never seen such a strange and puzzling person. However, when a knowledgeable Daoyuo Jingxian hidden in the center of the heaven punishment square of the alliance appeared, he solved the doubts in everyone's hearts. The completion. The mysterious young practitioner, just now was a practitioner who triggered the punishment of heaven in the completion state, which was rare in the cultivation world. The so-called completion meant that Chen Hao's human celestial stage had reached the completion state. Even if he didn't trigger the punishment of heaven, he was basically a master in the earth celestial stage. The only thing he lacked was a layer of membrane. A membrane that could be broken by a gentle poke. The only function of the punishment of heaven for him was to help him break that membrane. It didn't have any tempering effect on him, because he had already tempered himself to the completion of the human celestial stage. In the cultivation world, to be able to do this, basically any top genius could do it, but no one was stupid enough to do so, because it was a complete waste of time and energy. In fact, as long as one had 80% completion, they should trigger the punishment of heaven, because through the punishment of heaven, they could directly temper themselves to the completion state. Who would waste time tempering themselves to the completion state before triggering the punishment of heaven? That would be crazy. After all, the completion state was a complete waste of the punishment of heaven. Daoyuo Jinxian's explanation quickly spread in the heaven punishment square. After Long Ting and Long Yi heard it, their frowns and puzzled expressions turned into smiles. Immediately, the two of them disappeared and hurried back to Vast Universe City. However, Bailey Ningbing, who followed closely behind Chen Hao, didn't hear Daoyuo Jinxian's explanation. This time, I must make you kneel in front of me and beg me. Beg me. Bailey Ningbing, who had changed her aura and restrained it to the extreme, relied on a wisp of extremely pure, extremely mysterious, and extremely weak rune aura to lock onto Chen Hao from afar and follow behind him. She suppressed the hatred that had accumulated in the depths of her heart, and waited for an opportunity. She believed that this time, she would definitely be able to give Chen Hao an unforgettable lesson, and wash away the hatred in her heart. Kill Chen Hao. That would be letting him off too easily. Regardless of whether others thought of it or not, At least she had never thought of it. Chen Hao's humiliation, to her, was absolutely not something that could be repaid with death. It had to be said that this woman was already extreme to the point of being incurable and stubborn to the point of madness. She simply couldn't be measured by ordinary people's thinking. The reason she believed that she would be able to vent the hatred in her heart a little this time was firstly, because her current strength was absolutely not something Chen Hao, who just stepped foot into the earthly immortal realm, could compare to, and she was confident that she could fiercely trample on him beneath her feet. Secondly, she had a divine artifact with concealment and tracking attributes, which allowed her to have absolute information to silently follow Chen Hao and find an opportunity to vent her anger. This was also the divine artifact that she had given up all the tempting rewards from the everlasting sect after entering the divine temple. The purpose was to follow Long Ting, who was temporarily a little stronger than her, in order to obtain Chen Hao's whereabouts. Now the opportunity had come, and it came very quickly. Beep. Beep. While flying gloomily, Chen Hao, who had just entered the second world, received a message from Long Ting as soon as he entered. Brother Hao, congratulations on stepping into the ranks of the Earth Celestial stage at the Perfection stage. What does this mean? I haven't even said anything, and the message came? And the Perfection stage. Beep. Beep. Chen Hao did not hesitate and immediately sent out a communication request. Brother Hao, congratulations, congratulations. You're really powerful. The aura of divine punishment is so strong, it's even stronger than mine back then. Unfortunately, you're at the Perfection stage, so it's useless. Ahem. Sister Ting, don't tell me you're coming over? Chen Hao felt that Long Ting's words had a hidden meaning, and it was precisely what he did not understand. No, I'm so obedient. Why wouldn't I listen to you and come over? Then how do you know about my situation? I'm not telling you. Anyway, I just know. Ha. Long Ting laughed proudly, staring at the image in her mind, her eyes dazed. She wanted so much to appear in front of Chen Hao. However, for the sake of the promise of 10 years, for the sake of better tempering both of them, for the sake of maximizing the effects of the medicine, and for the sake of not disrupting his state of mind and plans, she could only endure it. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Qidian. Come. Chapter 637. In the second world, she was smiling foolishly. Her real body was flying quickly, and there were tears in the corners of her eyes. The feeling of being in love and missing someone was painful and happy at the same time. But missing someone for a long time was too painful and too aggrieved. Sometimes Long Ting even wanted to give up on the so-called effects of the medicine, the so-called everything. But she knew that she couldn't let her emotions affect her decisions. In a year and a half, Chen Hao had just stepped into the Earth Immortal stage. She had stepped into the Earth Immortal stage for a year. How much progress had she made? In the path of cultivation, as one's level increased, the speed of progress would be slower. With only 8 years left, how much could Chen Hao improve? Not to mention the Heaven Immortal stage. Even the peak of the Earth Immortal stage could not be guaranteed. As for her, she was willing to become Chen Hao's bargaining chip 8 years later. Fearless, reckless, becoming a disciple of the Divine Temple would give her status and power. She would be the focus of the entire vast universe galaxy. Although her strength had not reached the peak, her potential was limitless. She had thought she could help Chen Hao if she failed in the future. However, Bailey Ningbing, her rival, had also become a disciple of the Divine Temple. This possibility was eliminated. Chen Hao frowned slightly as he looked at Long Ting, who was smiling foolishly. Especially when he saw her dazed gaze. Chen Hao had already guessed a certain possibility. However, he did not point it out. Instead, he continued. What do you mean when you say that the Great Perfection stage has no effect? I heard it earlier as well. Cough cough. In other words, you've attained the earthly immortal realm before drawing down the heavenly tribulation. Under normal circumstances, no one would waste time tempering themselves to the perfection realm before drawing down the heavenly tribulation, because in that way, the effect of the heavenly tribulation would be completely wasted. Silly Brother Hao, you're a top-grade idiot that's rarely seen in a million years. Ha. Brother Hao, do you miss me? I miss you so much. Okay, I'm going off first. When Long Ting's real body arrived at the teleportation device, she cut off the connection. This girl. She must be here. Chen Hao pondered in his heart. Long Ting's words and the inadvertent sentence of, I also heard you say goodbye just now, were enough to prove that Long Ting had come here. How could Chen Hao not want to see him? In the past 1.5 years, he had also had an outburst. How could he not miss it? But if they met, what if he couldn't control himself? Looks like this is definitely a test for me. Of course, it's even more of a test for her, right? This girl likes to play with fire. Chen Hao also left the second world, and his real body slowed down. At the same time, he released his powerful soul perception. However, what made him feel slightly strange was that even after a few minutes, he still couldn't catch Long Ting's aura from the endless stream of people. Of course, Chen Hao knew that Long Ting must have changed her aura and concealed her appearance. However, with Chen Hao's familiarity with Long Ting, no matter how Long Ting changed, her physical body and aura would not change much to a certain extent, especially when there was still life aura. But there was obviously no one around. That's not right. There's obviously a feeling. Chen Hao frowned and thought to himself. In fact, when he was talking to Long Ting, his naturally sharp intuition felt that someone was locking on to him. However, it was only intuition, and he couldn't catch it. At this time, he released his soul perception completely, but he still couldn't catch it. It was a little strange. Could it be that this girl has a saint-level treasure that can hide her aura and has the ability to track people? And it must be like this. If you don't show yourself, then I'll see how long you can endure. Or is it because you're embarrassed to show yourself in front of so many people? Or are you afraid that there's an expert secretly following her and exposing me? Chen Hao's mind turned quickly, and he thought of all kinds of possibilities. However, what Chen Hao didn't know was that Long Ting was indeed very obedient. She was so obedient that it was beyond his imagination. She clearly came here, but she forcibly suppressed her feelings and left. Of course, Chen Hao's innate intuition was also very accurate. He was indeed locked onto. Unfortunately, from the beginning he had thought in the wrong direction. And then let's go out of the city and take a look. Originally, Chen Hao could merge with all things in the world, and he would definitely merge with all things in the world. However, this time he couldn't bear to merge with all things in the world. Although he concluded that Long Ting had a saint-level treasure that could hide her aura, and had the ability to track people, Chen Hao was still confident in his ability to merge with all things in the world. Once he merged with all things in the world, this girl wouldn't be able to catch up. Ooh. Very good. Hiss. Like a gust of wind, Bailey Ningbing followed behind Chen Hao. When she saw Chen Hao leaving the city, this unreasonable woman excitedly increased her speed. Everything was going smoothly beyond her expectations. The opportunity had come so quickly. As long as she left the city, she would have a chance. She excitedly stared at the figure that was moving forward quickly. That slender and proud figure. Thinking about how he would kneel in front of her not long later. Even if it was the humiliation of being forced to kneel in front of her, she was indescribably excited. So excited that she couldn't control herself. She wished that time could go faster, faster, faster. Hiss. One in front and one behind, separated by 1,000 miles. One only restrained her aura a little, while the other restrained her aura to the extreme with the help of a saint-level treasure. Just like that, they quickly headed into the endless wilderness. One felt that it was fun. What kind of trick was this girl playing? Why wasn't she coming out? Although he still didn't sense any aura. The other was getting more and more excited, waiting for a certain safe distance, before violently attacking. Unfortunately, she didn't know that the other party had relied on his rationality and intuition to determine that someone was following them. It was just an error in judgment. An hour later, Chen Hao flew at a moderate speed, and had already flown hundreds of thousands of miles. There were basically no other cultivators around. It's time to show yourself, right? Don't tell me you want to give me a surprise when I stop? And, since that's the case, then I will reluctantly cooperate. Chen Hao activated his eyes and looked into the distance. At the same time, he activated his soul perception, and found a relatively hidden natural cave. Intentionally looking around, Chen Hao directly turned into a stream of light and entered the cave. He activated a stream of energy and instantly cleaned up the cave. Then, Chen Hao sat down cross-legged and condensed a protective restriction according to everyone's experience. He slowly closed his eyes, as if entering a state of enlightenment. Undetectable, like the natural flow of air, a wisp of cool breeze drifted to the entrance of the cave. Although I can take him down in a head-on battle, it will definitely take a lot of effort. It's not as fast as a sneak attack. Bailey Ningbing didn't have any reason to talk to Chen Hao. She only wanted to use the fastest speed to subdue Chen Hao. Then think of all ways to humiliate and ravage him. If he didn't submit, she would beat him half to death, imprison him and torture him until he submitted. As for how to deal with him after he submitted, that was a matter for the future. Forcefully suppressing the energy that was about to explode, Bailey Ningbing silently stepped into the cave. Less than 100 feet in, she turned a corner and finally saw Chen Hao. She saw Chen Hao at a close distance, looking at the face that she had dreamed of countless times and wanted to slap into a pig's head. Her breathing became hurried. Under the protection of the concealment treasure, she was wearing a black robe and a black bamboo hat. It was the standard attire for training, but it still couldn't hide her curvaceous figure. Perhaps because she was too excited, her twin peaks were rising and falling at an extremely large amplitude. Unfortunately, although Chen Hao's soul perception was strong, in front of Bailey Ningbing, who had a saint-level concealment treasure and could activate 80% of its functions, he couldn't see or sense the slightest bit. But what's this girl doing? She should have come in, right? Why hasn't she shown herself yet? Could it be that she has to force me to use my ultimate move? Chen Hao was baffled by Long Ting, but he couldn't help but have a playful heart, wanting to play with this girl. He who had already pretended to be meditating suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. At this moment, she was already within 100 feet of Chen Hao. Moreover, under the concealment of the saint-level magic treasure, she started to madly condense her strongest confinement seal runes. Just as she was about to make a move, unexpectedly, Chen Hao moved again. This caused her to be startled, and she instantly retreated a certain distance. She was very clear that if she wanted to imprison Chen Hao in one move, she had to completely catch him off guard and directly imprison him before he could react. Otherwise, she would have to go through a great battle. To an Earth Celestial stage expert, the distance from here to Pan Nua City was only less than an hour. If the commotion was too great, it would inevitably attract passing cultivators. She didn't want to be surrounded by a crowd, and didn't want to complicate matters. Being able to directly take down Chen Hao was naturally the best choice. Therefore, she once again forcefully suppressed her desire to make a move, and waited for the best opportunity. Chen Hao laughed in his heart. Although he felt a little shameless, he had a mischievous mentality of an eye for an eye. Didn't this girl also seduce him back then? She even drugged him. Beauty can seduce, but I'm definitely a handsome guy, so I can also seduce him, right? After all, there's already a deep-rooted love between us, and it could flare up at any time. Moreover, in fact, Chen Hao thought that Long Ting must be watching him at this moment, and he was indeed very excited and aroused. However, he believed that with his self-control, he would definitely be able to withstand it. He would just treat it as a form of training, and let this girl know how powerful he was. Swish. Bailey Ningbing almost cried out in surprise. What was he doing? He actually took off his Taoist robe, revealing his naked upper body. That bronze skin, streamlined muscles, and a perfect inverted triangular figure that couldn't be seen when he was wearing clothes, were all on full display. Coupled with that cold and handsome face, he was simply a female killer. Chapter 638. Luckily, Chen Hao wasn't that kind of exhibitionist. He only took off his Taoist robe, and was still wearing his boxers. If a gentleman were to expose his balls, Bailey Ningbing would probably faint from the stimulation. But even so, Bailey Ningbing suddenly saw a man take off his clothes and expose so much in front of her. She was caught off guard by Chen Hao's sudden action. Her face heated up, Her breathing quickened, and her teeth itched with hatred. This definitely wasn't heat. One had to know that Bailey Ningbing hated Chun Hao to the core. Moreover, women, especially those who maintained their primordial Yin bodies and hadn't experienced any romance, weren't like men. Under visual impact, their desires would explode. The reason why Bailey Ningbing was in a daze was completely due to her hidden instincts. She couldn't bear the visual impact of the opposite sex. Especially when she saw a certain bulge. It was so dazzling that her eyes almost popped out. Shameless, shameless. Why are you taking off your clothes at this time? Bailey Ningbing said fiercely. She hadn't experienced it before, but she had long studied the dual cultivation method. To be precise, when she wanted to comprehend the immortal will through dual cultivation, she had meticulously studied the dual cultivation method. It was just that she hadn't put it into practice yet. And after living for so long as one wasn't an idiot, one would more or less know about the matters between men and women. Facing this kind of scene, even if one's teeth itched with hatred, they would still associate it with something. Still not coming out? This girl can really endure it. Could it be that I made a mistake? At this time, Chun Hao was a little suspicious that he had done something completely meaningless. But after thinking for a moment, especially that hidden intuition, he still felt that he was being watched. This kind of feeling, most people would ignore it, because in many situations it would instead disturb one's state of mind. But Chun Hao firmly believed in his intuition. Especially when it could be analyzed theoretically, there was even less reason to directly reject his intuition. You can really endure it. Looks like you really want me to enter a state of cultivation and launch a surprise attack. Alright then, this brother will fulfill your wish. Chun Hao considered Long Ting's thoughts and finally took a step back. He wasn't so thick-skinned that he would strip naked in front of Long Ting if he continued playing. If the limit was to be naked, everyone would be naked. How could a man like him be naked first? What a scandal! Therefore, he could only take a step back and let this girl have her way with the idea of giving him a surprise. Phew! Chun Hao pretended to withdraw his thoughts and sat down with his legs crossed once again. The aura surrounding his body changed slightly at that instant. To an outsider, he had definitely entered a state of cultivation where he was completely focused. 1 minute. 2 minutes. When Bailey Ningbing gritted her teeth and stared at Chun Hao's naked body for a full 3 minutes, she was certain that Chun Hao had entered a selfless state. It was also at this moment that the frozen ice, which was only a few hundred feet away, suddenly erupted. The law runes of the divine ability that had been condensed to the extreme instantly enveloped Chun Hao with the speed of a spark, containing boundless and terrifying energy and mysteries. This attack was like a venomous snake spitting out its tongue. It was fast, ruthless, accurate, and strange. Just as Bailey Ningbing took a step forward, wanting to step on Chun Hao and enjoy the fruits of her victory, what she didn't expect was that when her unexpected and extremely fast sealing runes were about to envelop Chun Hao's forehead, Chun Hao suddenly opened his eyes. Accompanied by a surprised and puzzled sound, his naked body suddenly disappeared at an even faster speed, leaving only an afterimage. What? Bailey Ningbing, who was dressed in black and had a graceful figure and a bamboo hat, had already revealed her figure. While she was shocked, she instantly extended her body and charged at Chun Hao, who was hiding at the side. With a flash of sword light, a pure and majestic immortal sword essence enveloped Chun Hao from all directions. Fuck! It was a long story, but some of the movements happened in the blink of an eye. Bailey Ningbing was like a venomous snake hidden in the darkness, silent, but quick, vicious, accurate, and strange to the extreme. It was only at this moment that Chun Hao's expression suddenly changed, and he cursed when he sensed the pure and powerful immortal sword essence. There was no doubt that the person in front of him was not Long Ting at all. Moreover, the aura of the immortal sword essence, the way she attacked, and the figure, although all of them had been disguised and were astonishingly improved compared to before, Chun Hao still knew who the person was in an instant. His anger rose up in an instant. Bitch. The reason why he could instantly deduce that it was Bailey Ningbing was very simple. Chun Hao, who had been in contact with Long Ting, naturally knew that Bailey Ningbing had become a disciple of the Divine Hall. He also knew that Bailey Ningbing and Long Ting had entered the same class and became classmates. He also knew that the two of them were at loggerheads. With Chen Hao's amazing intelligence, how could he not guess what was going on? Clang. Faced with Bailey Ningbing's vicious attack, Chen Hao was furious, but he did not dare to underestimate his opponent. He was very clear that a woman who could make Long Ting think that she was very powerful was definitely not weak in combat. Especially since she had been an Earth immortal for about a year, and he had just succeeded in passing the tribulation. Chi chi chi. Ding 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 boom boom boom. How dare you attack me? Their sword lights intertwined and clashed. Along with a terrifying explosion, the entire cave was sent flying. The mountain collapsed and the ground cracked. The two of them broke out of the cave and rose into the air, exchanging blows at the speed of thousands of swords in an instant. Humph. Today, I'll make you kneel before me and beg for mercy. I'll let you know the consequences of offending me, Bailey Ningbing. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll make you kneel and beg me to be your partner. I'll make you wish you were dead. I'll make you my slave for the rest of your life. A slave who will be humiliated to the extreme. Bailey Ningbing abruptly retreated, gritting her teeth as she spoke in a crazed manner. After she rushed out of the cave, the energy around her erupted like a volcano. Waves of profound aura covered the sky and the earth as it pressed down. Hatred, boundless hatred. The hatred that had been tormenting her all this time, making her almost crazy, finally exploded at this moment. Boom. Chi. This sword, which contained the immortal sword intent of heaven and earth, may be destroyed. The universe may collapse, but only I will not be destroyed. It also contained a mystery that shocked Chen Hao, and it was released from Bailey Ningbing's hand. At this moment, it was as if this sword was the only thing left in the world. It was as if everything under the sword intent would be annihilated and disappear. It was unstoppable and irreversible. What kind of technique is this? It's so strong. Chen Hao's pupils shrank. Although he was mentally prepared, he didn't expect Bailey Ningbing to be this strong. Chen Hao, who was already fuming from Bailey Ningbing's words, couldn't be bothered to be angry anymore. There was only seriousness, an unprecedented seriousness. Boom. His body, soul, will of the sword Tao, true essence. Everything was brought to the peak by Chen Hao at this moment. At the same time, Chen Hao's eyes blossomed with an incomparably resplendent light. His mind was pushed to the limit as he caught the sword that was like a bolt of lightning. Flaw. Where was the flaw? None. Even if there was, Chen Hao wouldn't be able to catch it at this critical moment. He didn't have time to think. Chen Hao, who had already made 2 preparations, suddenly met the attack with the sword he had condensed his strongest strength. Ding. There was a short sound of metal clashing as the 2 figures brushed past each other. A huge, pitch-black sword mark appeared in the void. There was no sound of energy explosion, because everything had been swallowed by the spatial black hole that had torn apart space. Hiss. Right at that moment, Bailey Ningbing's figure suddenly vanished. However, her sword actually took a turn and shot towards Chen Hao in an even more powerful and berserk manner, as if it was her own arm. Immortal sword light? Chen Hao couldn't help but exclaim. Sword light could contain immortal intent, and Chen Hao could do the same. However, to turn sword light into true immortal sword light, and condense it into an unbreakable and indestructible entity, Chen Hao couldn't do it at the moment, because that required his sword spirit to be at its peak. All this time, Chen Hao had never treated sword Tao as his specialty, and didn't specially refine his sword spirit. That wasn't his Tao. To be able to become a disciple of the Sacred Hall, you're indeed stronger than I imagined. Since you forced me to this point, then today, I'll let you see my true strength. Hiss. With his aura tumbling, Chen Hao, who was only wearing a pair of shorts, suddenly brought out the Saint artifact, the Dark North soft armor. At the same time, the raging energy around him shrank instead of expanding, completely submerging into his body. His pitch-black eyes suddenly flashed with 2 mysterious lights as he slashed out with his sword. Chi-chi. There were only 2 sword lights, one to meet Bailey Ningbing's immortal sword light, and the other to slash at the void. What? But it was this slash that made Bailey Ningbing cry out in surprise, and she immediately retreated. After her sneak attack on the seal failed, she had already known that if she wanted to take down Chen Hao, she would have to go through a fierce battle. Although this guy had just become an Earth Immortal, Bailey Ningbing knew that Chen Hao's strength and freakish strength would not be easy to take down. However, she believed that with the help of the Dark North soft armor and the Immortal Sword Light, she would be invincible. This was because the Dark North soft armor would allow her to come and go as she pleased, and the Immortal Sword Light would reduce her energy consumption to the minimum. How could she lose? How could she not take him down? Moreover, even if she couldn't take him down and wanted to leave, Chen Hao would not be able to stop her. However, she had just concealed herself, and was about to give Chen Hao a fatal blow under the attack of the Immortal Sword Light. However, Chen Hao had actually killed her with a single strike. How was this possible? Chapter 639. Coincidence. This is definitely a coincidence. There's no way he can see through the concealment of my saint-level magic treasure. Impossible. Bailey Ningbing hastily swung her sword. Her sneak attack failed, and she was struck by Chen Hao's sword instead. She had just gathered her strength, but before she could fully release it, she clashed with Chen Hao's attack. She didn't even have time to use 60% of her strength. Rumble. Bailey Ningbing was sent flying, but she only flew a few thousand feet before disappearing into the void again. She resisted the feeling of her blood boiling, and didn't come out of her concealment state. Instead, she chose to stay far away from Chen Hao, and went to a place where she thought Chen Hao wouldn't be able to see her. She didn't make a move, and continued to attack Chen Hao with her immortal sword. Humph! Chen Hao snorted disdainfully, as if he didn't see Bailey Ningbing at all. He raised his sword and attacked madly. Streaks of sword light containing the will of destruction continuously attacked Bailey Ningbing's immortal sword. If one strike wasn't enough, he would use 10. If 10 wasn't enough, he would use 100. Chen Hao only lacked the refinement of his sword soul, and he wasn't any weaker than Bailey Ningbing in terms of sword Dao. The materialized immortal sword's energy could only last longer, and Chen Hao would have to expend several times more energy to destroy it. With Chen Hao's recovery speed, what was there to fear? As expected, Bailey Ningbing saw that Chen Hao didn't chase after her, but was entangled with the immortal sword light she had activated. Moreover, he had formed an impenetrable defense around him. From time to time he would violently attack the void. This made her even more certain that Chen Hao had definitely hit her by accident and not caught her. But his reaction speed is very fast. Even if I ambush him, I have to combine my attacks to catch him off guard. Victory is destined to be mine, so why should I rush at this moment? His energy consumption is several times greater than mine. I only need to be patient to take him down. Hiss. Thinking of this, Bailey Ningbing deliberately set up a deceptive formation. With a strong thought, she quickly approached Chen Hao. Chen Hao activated his qi and made a feint. As expected, Chen Hao fell for it. He violently turned around and slashed his sword. Imph. See how I'll toy with you. Every time Bailey Ningbing's immortal sword light was destroyed by Chen Hao, she would appear for an instant and release another one. Then, she would hide and tease Chen Hao again to exhaust his energy. Occasionally, she would also release a real attack, combining real and fake attacks to confuse Chen Hao. Unfortunately, what she didn't know was that she, who thought she was toying with Chen Hao, was actually being toyed with by Chen Hao. In Chen Hao's eyes, Bailey Ningbing was completely naked as she jumped up and down. This was a magical and fantastical ability that Chen Hao had obtained long ago. Under normal circumstances, Chen Hao wouldn't be willing to use this ability, because the visual impact was too great. Especially in a city, Chen Hao didn't dare to use it. Otherwise, no matter how strong Chen Hao's willpower was, he would probably be overwhelmed by lust every day, or vomit because of a naked man. But the strength of this ability was unquestionable. It made Bailey Ningbing, who had a sage-level concealment artifact, unable to hide. Of course, the reason why Chen Hao pretended not to sense Bailey Ningbing at this moment wasn't for the sake of fantasizing. Facing such a crazy and unreasonable bitch, how could he be interested? Especially when she threatened to make him kneel and beg for mercy. The reason for this was that Chen Hao, who had just advanced to the Earth's celestial stage, just happened to be able to test his strength against the powerful Bailey Ningbing. Of course, Chen Hao also knew that he wouldn't be able to take her down in a short time, so he used this kind of steady method. It would just take a little more energy and time. In the end, no matter what, Chen Hao would ruthlessly trample this bitch under his feet and let her see his methods. As for killing her, Chen Hao hadn't thought about it. Not to mention Bailey Ningbing's current identity as a disciple of the Divine Temple, who was protected by the entire human race. Even if she didn't have this identity, Bailey Ningbing wouldn't have deserved to die. Whether it was her or her grandfather, Guan Nanchao, they hadn't done anything that completely violated the Wuji star. Moreover, in a sense they, especially Bailey Ningbing, were the Wuji star's current support. He still remembered the conflict with the Red Pagoda planet before the test in the Second World. Bailey Ningbing had shown a sense of belonging to the Wuji star. At the same time, the most important point was that Chen Hao only sensed hatred from Bailey Ningbing, but not killing intent. Although Chen Hao despised and loathed this woman, he also knew why she was so crazy and unreasonable. Chi chi chi. Boom boom boom. The fierce battle continued minute by minute. She thought that as time passed, Chen Hao, who was several times more exhausted than her, would definitely be unable to hold on. However, after a full 10 minutes, Chen Hao still didn't show any signs of fatigue. Instead, Bailey Ningbing felt more and more exhausted. This made Bailey Ningbing so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. She was mad with hatred and had no choice but to change her strategy and increase the number of real attacks. However, what made her angry was that Chen Hao's reaction speed was too shocking. Every time she thought that her attack would succeed, it was violently destroyed by Chen Hao. Even her strongest move didn't succeed. Why? Why is he so strong? So strong? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Chi. An even more terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Bailey Ningbing's body. No. I can't lose the big picture for the small things. I can't. If I burn my soul, my potential will be affected. I have to surpass him, really surpass him. Endure, this time I can only endure. Chi. Boom. Chen Hao, just you wait. One day, I will make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead. I will make you regret it. One day? What, didn't you want to beat me until I kneel and beg for mercy? You're giving up now? Hiss. Hearing Bailey Ningbing's words, Chen Hao said coldly with disdain. His figure suddenly closed in on the direction of the voice. Just you wait. It won't be long. I want to leave. Don't think you can stop me. Bailey Ningbing felt a deep sense of humiliation. She came full of confidence, especially when she said those words at the beginning. However, she couldn't do anything to her opponent. Once again, she let him be arrogant. Once again, she proved that she was useless in front of him. Being slapped in the face. This was undoubtedly one disaster after another. She could only leave as fast as she could so as not to see her opponent's proud and arrogant face. What little pride she had left would be ruthlessly attacked and trampled on by him again. You want to run? Do you think I'm a punching bag that you can come and go as you please? Today, if I don't let you have a taste of my methods, you'll really think I'm easy to bully. Boom. Following Chen Hao's words, he charged towards Bailey Ningbing like a cannonball. Dream on. Hiss. Bailey Ningbing silently changed her direction under the concealment effect of the Saint Great Spiritual Treasure. Not being able to take down Chen Hao was already an extreme humiliation to her. How could she let Chen Hao catch up to her? Moreover, with the concealment effect of the Saint Great Spiritual Treasure, she had absolute confidence that she could escape unscathed now. Chen Hao was only chasing blindly based on sound. What was there to fear? But in just an instant, Bailey Ningbing almost cried out in shock. Forcefully suppressing the fear in her heart, she changed her direction again, then changed again and again. Finally, she shockingly discovered that she was wrong from the beginning. How was this a fast reaction speed? She had been thoroughly toyed with by Chen Hao. The Saint Great Spiritual Treasure actually couldn't hide from Chen Hao's perception from the beginning. Boom boom boom. Facing Chen Hao, who was chasing after her with astonishing speed and unceasing attacks, Bailey Ningbing truly felt her hair stand on end at this moment. She frantically defended against Chen Hao's attacks, fighting as she fled. For a moment, although Chen Hao couldn't take her down, she also discovered that it was impossible for her to escape. What did this mean? Bailey Ningbing originally had no choice but to temporarily retreat, because she felt that she couldn't take down Chen Hao. She planned to settle the score with Chen Hao in the future. But now, even her greatest reliance had lost its effect. To be precise, it didn't have any effect in the first place. Boom. What are you trying to do? After knowing that concealment had no effect, Bailey Ningbing no longer wasted her energy and true essence to activate the saint-grade spiritual treasure. After releasing a powerful sword technique, she glared at Chen Hao and spoke with fury. What am I trying to do? You followed me here and threatened to beat me to the ground, make me beg for mercy, torture me until I beg for death, and become your slave. What do you think I'm trying to do? I'm a disciple of the temple. How dare you? What a big temple disciple. I'm so scared. Chen Hao became one with his sword, looking at the terrified Bailey Ningbing. In his eyes, Bailey Ningbing was completely naked, and without the slightest bit of pity, he violently attacked. Everyone loved beauty, especially a peerless beauty like Bailey Ningbing. It was likely that any man, especially under the super-perverted gaze of Chen Hao, would feel protective feelings for the fairer sex. Of course, it was more likely that he would have the evil intent to take her down on the spot. In truth, if it was the Chen Hao of his previous life, he would undoubtedly take this woman down, ravage her 100 times, and then run away with his pants. But the Chen Hao of this life, or the Chen Hao after fusion, would definitely not do that. Firstly, he had no sexual interest in this arrogant, self-centered and unreasonable woman. Secondly, it didn't conform to his personality. In this life he didn't dare to say anything else, but the basic chastity was absolute, without any impurities. Otherwise, with his endless luck with women, he wouldn't have only truly gotten Tantai Lian until now. But it was impossible to let Bailey Ningbing go just like that. Make her kneel on the ground and beg for mercy? Then I'll make you kneel. Cough cough, kneel on the ground and beg for mercy. Humiliate me? Then I'll humiliate you until you wet your pants when you see me. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 640. Qi. Another 10 minutes later, Bailey Ningbing could no longer hold on. Chen Hao, who was still as lively as ever, had his shoulder pierced by a sword light. At the same time, a rune containing the law of sealing covered Bailey Ningbing. His entire body directly fell from the void and fell onto the ground in a daze, unable to move. Let me go. Bailey Ningbing looked at the descending Chen Hao in horror. Pa. The crisp sound of the slap resounded through the sky. Bailey Ningbing, who was sealed, immediately felt dizzy. If it weren't for her strong physical body and immortal will, her head would have exploded from the slap. What do you want? But it was this slap that made Bailey Ningbing calm down. Her eyes became even colder, staring at Chen Hao with hatred. The fear on her face had already disappeared. She didn't believe that Chen Hao would dare to kill her. As a disciple of the temple, she was protected by the highest temple in the entire vast universe galaxy. She was the future of the human race, the elites of the human race. Besides the temple, no one could and no one dared to dictate their life and death. Killing her was equivalent to suicide. Pa. Unfortunately, the cold Chen Hao's reply was a series of slaps. The strength of each slap was just enough to make her see stars, but not enough to make her faint. She could be sure that this was a complete humiliation, a ravaging. I will not let you go. The humiliation you gave me, one day I will return it 100 times, 1,000 times. Hit me as much as you want. Pa. Humiliation? You call this humiliation? Qi. What are you doing? What am I doing? What are you afraid? Kneel in front of me and beg for forgiveness. Maybe I can consider letting you go. To beast. Qi Chen Hao's expression was cold, his eyes filled with lust and viciousness. Neither fast nor slow, neither fast nor slow. He violently tore apart Bailey Ningbing's clothes. Even the spirit artifact's soft armor was forcefully taken away by Chen Hao without Bailey Ningbing's true essence and mind. Her white and tender flesh was exposed to the light of day. At the same time, one hand was slapping her nonstop. Hurry up, my patience is very limited. Chi. In your dreams. Kill me if you have the guts. Kill you? That's too easy for you. Why would I kill you? I will strip you of your clothes. You dare, you humiliate me, the temple will not let you go. Ha, to humiliate you? You think I will humiliate you? Even if you raise your butt in front of me, I won't be interested. You think you're pretty? Good figure? Pooey. At most, you're just a man's sex tool. A pity, I'm not a casual person. I have no interest in an unreasonable and self-righteous slut like you. Chi. Chen Hao said he had no interest, but he still slowly tore apart Bailey Ningbing's clothes. You. Don't be agitated. TSK. Your face is red, your heart is beating faster, your breathing is hurried. Why? Do you like the taste of being raped? Or do you like being raped by me? A pity. I can't satisfy you. It's still not too late for you to kneel down and beg for mercy. Otherwise, when I strip you naked, it'll be time for me to parade you around the streets. I'll let millions of cultivators see what's so attractive about you. A moron who thinks that all men in the world should like you and those who don't should die. What? You. I will kill you. Kill you. The temple will not let you go. I'm so scared, Chi. TSK. Although I don't like it, your figure is really not bad. I believe many people will like it. I wonder what they'll think when they see you. A disciple of the temple, parading around the streets naked? Don't think I'm joking. There's not much time left. Bailey Ningbing's robes had been completely torn apart. At this moment, only her chest and underwear were left. Her snow-white long legs, flat stomach, slender waist, and her chest heaving up and down due to anger. Although Chen Hao didn't want to admit it, he had to admit that this slut was indeed a good tool for him to vent his lust. Although it was the same as what he saw with his YYI, the feeling was completely different. Do it if you dare. You want me to beg for mercy? Dream on. You think I don't dare? Chen Hao raged. If you dare do it. Everything you've done to me, one day, I'll make you regret it. If not, just kill me and end it all. Fuck. Chi. Ah. Chen Hao was completely infuriated by this woman. He directly and savagely split her chest into two from the middle, violently tearing it apart. Following Bailey Ningbing's scream, the woman's hands suddenly covered her bouncing snow-white breasts as she glared at Chen Hao. Her eyes filled with venom and boundless hatred. Fuck. Chi. Seeing this, Chen Hao was even angrier. His hands reached for Bailey Ningbing's lower body. With a tearing sound, her underwear was also torn apart. Bailey Ningbing couldn't stop him even if she wanted to. At this moment, she only had the most basic freedom of movement. Bailey Ningbing clenched her teeth so hard that her lips bled. She covered her chest with one hand and held her lower body with the other as she glared at Chen Hao. She didn't even say a word, but her body trembled violently. This clearly told Chen Hao how strong her hatred was. Her eyes were glistening with endless humiliation. Chen Hao, who had been driven mad by this stubborn and extreme woman, looked at the completely naked Bailey Ningbing, who was staring at him like a venomous snake filled with humiliation and hatred. He suddenly felt that he was an idiot. How could he make such an extreme and crazy woman submit? Or was it just a threat? Fuck your mother. For the first time, Chen Hao felt that he had lost his head from anger. That was why he did something so stupid. You've got guts. But only this once. Put away your humiliating and hateful gaze. You'll never be my opponent. Also, I don't think I've done anything to offend you. It's all your nonsense. If you can't recognize this and continue to pester me, then don't blame me for being ruthless. T. Rumble. Chen Hao casually undid the restriction on Bailey Ningbing's body. Without another glance, he turned into a ray of light and quickly left. Just you wait. Just you wait. Ah. Bailey Ningbing, who had regained her freedom, jumped up and screamed at the top of her lungs. Chen Hao, who had been sent flying, was speechless. In the end, he suppressed his desire to kill her and quickly left. It wasn't that he wasn't decisive enough, but that he really didn't have a reason to kill Bailey Ningbing. To put it bluntly, no matter how one looked at it, Bailey Ningbing hadn't touched his bottom line. In his eyes, she was just a crazy woman whose thoughts were so extreme that they couldn't be reasoned with. The root cause was that he had refused to replace Dongfang Han as her cultivation partner. And this time, Chen Hao had indeed lost his rationality because of this crazy woman's words and actions. He should have known that such an extreme person would never be intimidated by him. Therefore, he shouldn't have used such a method to intimidate her. Moreover, he really did strip Bailey Ningbing naked. This made Chen Hao, who had calmed down, feel that he had gone too far. No matter how wrong this woman was, no matter how cheap she was, it wasn't to the point where she couldn't be redeemed. Trampling on her was fine, but stripping her naked was still too much. Moreover, Chen Hao wouldn't do as he said and parade her naked in the streets. Damn it, she's already done it. Serves her right. She asked for it. If she doesn't repent, damn it, she definitely won't let it go. Next time. Chen Hao flew quickly, extremely depressed. He should have felt good after trampling on this woman, but now he felt like he was being trampled on instead. There wasn't the slightest thrill of victory. Chen Hao didn't even know what to do next time. Kill. It wasn't to the extent that if he didn't kill her, he would be pestered. Meeting such a crazy woman was indeed a headache. Boom boom boom, Bailey Ningbing seemed to have gone crazy. She screamed angrily and attacked crazily, venting the anger and hatred in her heart that was about to explode. Stripped naked. She was stripped naked. But his eyes didn't even look straight at her. What made Bailey Ningbing's thousands of nerves hurt even more was the extremely humiliating words he said. I'll definitely make you regret it. Definitely. Definitely. Chi. After venting for a full 2 minutes, Bailey Ningbing turned into a ray of light and left quickly with endless unwillingness and humiliation. Beep beep beep. Brother Hao? I just came up. Ha ha ha, what's wrong? 4 hours later, Long Ting, who had just returned to the sacred palace in Vast Universe City, received Chen Hao's communication request as soon as she logged into the second world. This kind of situation was rare, especially when they had just contacted each other. Pay attention to Bailey Ningbing in the future. Don't be followed again. Brother Hao, what do you mean? What do I mean? Girl, when I triggered the heavenly punishment, did you come? Ahem. I just went to take a look. I didn't. Brother Hao, you said Bailey Ningbing followed me? Long Ting suddenly realized what Chen Hao meant and frowned in surprise. Yes. She has a saint artifact with concealment and tracking attributes. Be careful in the future. That woman is a lunatic. You. Brother Hao, you saw her? More than saw. If it weren't for the fact that she didn't deserve to die, I would have killed her. Ahem. You guys fought? You won? What would happen if I lost? That's true. Brother Hao, if you lost, you would have probably been raped by her. Ha ha. Long Ting laughed mockingly. Girl. Alright, I'm going offline. Chen Hao said speechlessly and cut off the communication. Chapter 641. The Earth Celestial stage was a brand new stage, and it was also the stage where Chen Hao felt the smallest improvement after his advancement. The reason was naturally because he had reached the full circle stage. But to ordinary people this might seem silly and purely a waste of time. But to Chen Hao it was necessary because of his Tao, his cultivation method, of course. The most important thing was that he had advanced continuously in the chaotic space. If Chen Hao had not found his own Tao, then his advancement back then would not have been wrong at all. But after finding his Tao, it became spoiling by excessive enthusiasm, and he had no choice but to temper himself in the second world with a pseudo-stage. But although it was necessary, Chen Hao, who had been full of expectations for divine punishment, did not gain anything, and he was still a little depressed. After stepping into the Earth Celestial stage, the only thing I have improved is the quality and capacity of my true essence. At this moment, Chen Hao had already left Pan Nua City without stopping to rest, and came to a city smaller than Pan Nua City on Vast Universe Star, East Flow City. He sat cross-legged in the largest restaurant in East Flow City, in the most expensive room in the cultivation room, and finally put aside the unhappiness caused by Bailey Ningbing. He calmed his heart and sensed the changes in his body after stepping into the Earth's celestial stage. What made him depressed was that his physical body, soul, state of mind, will comprehension of the heavenly Tao, and so on, did not seem to have changed after going through divine punishment, and there was basically no difference from when he was in the human celestial stage. The only thing that had improved was the quality and capacity of his true essence. Even little sister Ting knows that I have a reason, and she still calls me an idiot. Damn it, the others definitely think I'm an idiot. Luckily no one knows who I am. Cough cough, only that woman knows. But after stepping into the Earth's celestial stage, I can fight steadily and surely. Let's go to the second world and fight 1,000 battles first. Hiss. Chi. A spiritual helmet flew out from between Chen Hao's eyebrows and floated in front of him. At the same time, Chen Hao forced a stream of blood essence into it. Clearly, this was an ownerless spiritual realm helmet. For more than a year, Chen Hao would enter the second world with a new identity every once in a while. For any identity, once it caused a sensation in the second world, it would disappear without a trace. For more than a year, that was more than 10 years in the second world. Chen Hao had already used 98 identities, and each identity had become a mystery character in some city of the second world's vast universe star. After stepping into the Earth Immortal Realm and entering East Flow City, Chen Hao naturally had to enter with a new identity. Boom. Name Cold-Blooded. I am heaven and earth are me. How could it appear so easily? At this moment, Chen Hao clearly felt that his real body and himself in the second world had once again transcended the constraints of the law of time. They were completely integrated. Since the first time this happened, Chen Hao had been pursuing this state. Although he had succeeded twice, he still didn't have any clues or useful experience. He could only say that it was based on luck. It had to be said that although this state could only appear when he was at the peak of the cultivation stage, it didn't necessarily appear. It could be said that it could only be encountered by chance. This doesn't make sense. Even Chen Hao himself found it hard to believe. Was this real? He had been in the second world for more than 10 years. Even though he had become more and more complete in the worldly immortal realm as time passed, he had only entered this state twice. Moreover, it had appeared when he was meditating in a state of secluded meditation. But now, he hadn't even adjusted his state of mind, and it had appeared just like that. What surprised Chen Hao even more was that he seemed to be able to clearly grasp the mystery of this state. He was sure that even if he exited the second world and entered it again, he could easily integrate with it. What was going on? I am heaven and earth are me. Only when my cultivation stage is at the peak of the cultivation stage can I encounter this state. But I have just stepped into the Earth's celestial stage. How could I encounter this state? Moreover, it seems that I have mastered this state of mind. Give it a try? Give it a try. Chen Hao suspected that this feeling was unreal, but it was real. He was a little worried that he wouldn't be able to enter this state if he tried, but that clear feeling of control. Chen Hao couldn't help but want to test it out. Chi. Chen Hao turned into a white light and disappeared in the second world. Chi. Soon after, Chen Hao appeared in the second world again. Moreover, a moment later, the cultivators who passed by saw a guy who was laughing madly at the sky. Ha ha ha. Good, Tian Fa didn't give me any benefits, but this benefit is more practical than any improvement in other aspects. Ha ha ha. Chen Hao was in a good mood. The gloomy feeling of Tian Fa not gaining any improvement was swept away. What did it mean to be able to enter this state at all times? It meant that Chen Hao's cultivation in the second world would be more in sync with reality. As long as he could do it in the second world, his real body would be able to do it with a little practice. This would definitely save a lot of training time. How could Chen Hao not be excited? With only 8 years' time, he would have to fight with an expert at the peak of the heavenly celestial stage. Although Chen Hao was very confident and firmly believed that he could do it, it was still a belief and not certainty. But now it made his belief even firmer. This was the best gift that God had given him. What he lacked was time. Phew. To be able to enter this state at any time, I would have to spend 4/5 of my training time, but I can definitely reduce it to 1/4. In other words, I only need 1/5 of my training time. Ha ha ha. My promotion speed can be increased by 4 times. Even if I spend half of my time sleeping, my promotion speed will be twice as fast as before. Ha ha. Just wait, 8 years later, it will be the time for me to seek justice. The peak of the heavenly celestial stage? I want to see who is the one who is courting death. Ah. Chi. Even as Chun Hao's excitement grew, and he thought about how he would get justice 8 years later, and how he would be reunited with his women, his true self suddenly exploded with power. He once again transformed into a beam of white light that vanished from the second world. Boundless desire, like a raging fire, was 10 times, 100 times more intense than the previous explosion. The medicinal power of the 1E Nirvana pill. During this 1.5 years, perhaps it was because the pressure on Chun Hao was too great that he'd never aroused any thoughts of lust, causing him to only endure the baptism of the flames of desire burning his body and burning his soul. Even though it was unbearable, he still restrained himself. Long Ting, on the other hand, had already taken the second pill that contained Chun Hao's blood essence, which was the Tu Yang Nirvana pill. This was something that Chun Hao was very proud of, and Long Ting was very depressed. And now, perhaps it was because Chun Hao suddenly felt relaxed, or perhaps it was because he thought of reuniting with the girls and the exhilaration of being able to hold his head high. Chun Hao finally erupted again. Moreover, it was 10 times, 100 times more intense than the previous explosion. Chun Hao's mind was instantly filled with boundless desire. His body and soul were burning, and his mind was filled with Long Ting. Moreover, the degree of temptation increased by 100,000 times. Roar! Roar! Chun Hao's exposed skin turned as red as blood. His originally clear eyes turned blood red at this moment, and a low roar filled with wildness and desire erupted uncontrollably from his roar. Endure! 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 In the depths of his soul, Chun Hao roared crazily. He desperately resisted the pain of burning desire, and held on to his last bit of consciousness. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.